excited. That little girl general led them to kill all 50 guards and 2 latest golden marshal realm experts. Taisho couldn't believe his ears. He questioned the guard repeatedly and found that he hadn't misheard. He slumped onto the soft couch, his mind blank. He couldn't process what had just happened. What should I do now? Gao Ling beside him was gnashing her teeth in anger. Her murderous aura almost solidified. Meanwhile, in the boy army camp in Lingju, everyone was still unaware of the young general's exploits. Liu Huzi was still competing with Li Xingyuan in arm wrestling, while others cheered them on. Yi Xi was in his study, outlining the development plan for the northern region for the next 10 years. His thoughts were filled with Yinyou. That child should have reached Yangzhou by now. I wonder if everything is going smoothly. Suddenly, he began to cough violently. A mouthful of blood spurted onto the desk, staining the words he had just written. Yi Xi's heart sank. He knew he didn't have much time left. He helplessly put away his pen, put on his mask, and walked out of the study. As soon as he stepped out, he saw 2 maids picking out fabrics, preparing to make the latest fashion for Yinyou. Yi Xi thought that the material for the Qingyu Zhuan robe was special, and it would take at least several months to complete. Yi Xi just glanced at the fabrics and left. He thought that those clothes would be enough for Yinyou to wear until she reached adulthood. He just didn't know if she would live until then. The more Yi Xi thought about it, the more worried he became. Once he was gone, no one would be able to help Yinyou remove the remaining dragon sandstone seals. No matter how he calculated, there wasn't enough time. A ruthless thought suddenly flashed through Yi Xi's mind. Now he could only hope that Ling Yan would mature soon and quickly cultivate the world tree. Therefore, the northern region had to be conquered now. Yi Xi suddenly realized that he was dying. Even before his death, he was still making plans for his daughter. Yinyou, his daughter, was unaware of all this. At this moment, she only wanted to cultivate diligently. Being ambushed yesterday, and almost losing her life made her realize that there were many powerful people out there. Only by increasing her strength could she protect herself. Yan Jiyu, possessing the little black cat, wandered the streets to ensure Yuyu's safety. The commoners spontaneously took turns guarding the entire city's main entrance, all of them vigilant and ready for action. Although he had a network of informants who could get information in a timely manner and didn't need the commoners to be so busy, he was still touched. Then Yinyou heard Zeng Wen bragging to a young man on the street corner. The young man had seen him following Yinyou and thought he was her guard. But Zeng Wen proudly declared that he was a member of the boy army. The young man was ecstatic. Who didn't know the boy army? It was the legendary army of the Northern Yu Kingdom, and General Yi Xi was everyone's idol. However, when it came to the internal structure of the boy army, the young man was confused. What was a structure? Zeng Wen mentioned Geng Zihong, whom he knew. Wasn't he the most powerful assassin in the Northern Yu Kingdom? The young man admired him the most, so Zeng Wen took the opportunity to invite him to join the boy army's intelligence network and get close to his idol. The young man was completely fooled. Yinyou couldn't help but snicker. Zeng Wen really wanted to turn all the commoners into informants. What an idea! He then jumped onto the roof and swiftly arrived at Taisho's residence. He peered down through the roof tiles. Taisho was on the verge of a breakdown. He heard that the little girl general had numerous experts around her. Having offended her, he feared he would be skinned alive. What was even more terrifying was that if the news reached Marquis Yongan, he would definitely retaliate. The more Taisho thought about it, the more afraid he became, unable to sleep. Yinyou forcefully smashed a tile beneath him. This old fool is scared now. What were you doing earlier? I'm going to teach you a lesson. He directly threw the tile at Taisho's head. Taisho cried out in pain. At the same time, he gained villain points. How could Yinyou let go of the opportunity to farm villain points? He got more and more excited, using his forepaws to continuously smash tiles at Taisho. Every hit earned him villain points. Taisho couldn't dodge at all and was in excruciating pain. He thought a ghost was haunting him and cautiously looked up. Through the broken hole, he saw a little black cat with a mischievous expression on its face. Taisho was furious. It was this damned cat. He wanted to catch it and make it into a hot pot. Yinyou wouldn't let him get away with it. He jumped down from the roof. He then proceeded to scratch and bite Taisho's face, leaving him screaming in pain. After the beating, Yinyou left, leaving Taisho in a state of disbelief. Just as Yinyou was about to leave, the system suddenly popped up a notification. Villain points. Yinyou was stunned. He looked around but didn't see anyone else. He couldn't help but suspect that the system was malfunctioning. The next second, the system prompted again. Villain points. Yuyu's fur stood on end. What was going on? What was that female monster trying to do? All the stuff in the house was stolen, and you're still sleeping like a log. See if I don't beat you to death, you idiot. Yinyou jumped up in protest. Human Yuyu, don't go too far. You dare talk back. I'm going to beat you up today. It turned out that just now, Yuyu, possessing the black cat, was attacking Taisho. He was about to return home, when the system notified him of the villain points. Yuyu was puzzled. Meanwhile, in Yuyu's room, a wisp of black smoke slipped in through the window. It landed and transformed into a human form, which was Luo Yinyou in his demon form. His greedy gaze fell upon Yuyu. He touched and examined her, finding her body perfect. If he could possess the body of Marquis Yongan's daughter, it would be much easier for him to act in the future. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. He couldn't wait to possess Yu's body. However, just as he was about to enter, an invisible barrier suddenly appeared and sent him flying. Luo Yinyou was shocked. She was just a child. Why couldn't he possess her? He looked around in disbelief. Yuyu was still sleeping soundly, and beside her was only a snoring white horse. Luo Yinyou was not convinced. He tried to force his power into Yu's body again. However, he didn't know that the barrier's effect was reciprocal. This time, he was not only blocked, but also sent flying backward, crashing heavily into the wall with a loud bang. His head felt like it was about to split open. Luo Yinyou's head was throbbing as if it were on fire. The soul-devouring energy he was suppressing was almost uncontrollable. He immediately turned into a wisp of black smoke and escaped through the window. He needed to report to his clan immediately. This daughter of Marquis Yongan had the ability to suppress demonic energy. After the black smoke completely disappeared, Yinyou opened his eyes in a daze. He seemed to have dreamed that something bad was trying to invade his little master's body. But looking at the empty room, Yinyou relaxed and lay down on the floor to sleep again. Yuyu, seeing that Luo Yinyou's frustration value had reached its limit on the system panel, sensed something was wrong and immediately rushed back. As soon as he entered the room, he smelled a faint, strange odor. Yuyu followed the scent around the room, and found that the smell was strongest on the opposite wall. He suspected that someone had been here, but Yinyou was still sound asleep. Yuyu walked over and gave him a paw. This useless guard. Then he returned to his body. Yinyou was also awakened, looking confused. Yuyu asked him if he had seen anything. Yinyou tilted his head and meowed. Yuyu punched him. I don't understand cat language. Speak human. Yinyou was both anxious and angry. He yelled at Yuyu, if I could speak human, I'd be a god. The next day, Yuyu was writing a letter to Yi, wanting to tell him about his current predicament. Suddenly, Zheng Wen rushed in to report, young master, it's not good. The city gates are closed. Yuyu dropped his brush. Is it that bastard Taisho again? Zheng Wen said that Taisho wanted to defend Yangzhou city to the death, completely disregarding the lives of the commoners outside the city. Yuyu slammed the table and stood up. Sha Taisho was killed. The city gates are open. This time, she's finally going to make a big move. Sha Tanguan, Taisho. Open the city gates. I want to see who dares to harm the common people. When Yang Zheng hopped happily on his right foot. Shihu Xiaojiang, you're brilliant, resourceful, and unparalleled in your work. Yu Lian Meng interrupted his flattery. This series of praises made one's skin crawl. Goosebumps rose all over. Yu hooked her finger, beckoning Yi Ta Fe over. She had a new idea. She whispered to Zheng Leng, we absolutely cannot directly kill him. We need to create a situation that makes Taisho's death seem logical. Soon, Taisho received news that the daughter of the Marquis of Yongan had paid a visit to Ci Shi and Ji Du Shi. He was overjoyed. He immediately ordered someone to invite these two officials over. At this critical moment, he couldn't afford to let them doubt him. Unbeknownst to him, Yu had already finished her confrontation with Yang Zhu Ci Shi and turned her attention to the next target. Yang Zhu Fu Shi. The locust plague hadn't reached this area yet. Zhuan Qiji was writing something in his study. Suddenly, Yu and Bianjiu poked their heads in through the window. Zhuan Qiji was so startled that his heart almost stopped. Are ghosts so brazen these days? He offered them sets of sacrifices, but Yu didn't mind. She was curious about what he was writing. Since the city gates are closed, how is he going to send it out? Zhuan Qiji didn't answer. What right does he have to answer a question from someone of her status? Imitating Yizu, Yu casually walked in and said, I am Luo Yinyou, daughter of the Marquis of Yongan. Zhuan Qizhi almost swallowed his tongue. He didn't expect the renowned General Yi to have a daughter. He then looked at Yu intently, especially at her seemingly inconspicuous little braid. Zhuan Qizhi couldn't help but laugh. The legendary, invincible Xiao Jiang, the renowned little general's daughter, is actually so. Yu felt he was mocking her, but time was of the essence. She couldn't waste time talking nonsense with him. The most pressing issue was the impending starvation of Yangzhu's people due to the closed city gates and Taishou's negligence. Yu wanted to know Zhuan Qizhi's opinion on these matters. Zhuan Qizhi slammed his table and shouted, "That scoundrel dares to deceive people." Long before the famine broke out, he had reported the unexplained disappearance of migratory birds, which would affect grain production. That scoundrel probably ignored it and indulged in wine, women, and song every day. Now that the disaster has struck, he's not helping but hindering efforts. I must impeach him. Yu couldn't help but look at him with newfound respect. The news about the migratory birds disappearing was confidential. He was actually aware of it before the disaster struck. He was truly talented. Yu immediately wanted to ask if he had any good countermeasures. However, Zhuan Qizhi didn't answer and led her outside. They arrived in the backyard, facing a cage covered with a white cloth. Zhuan Qizhi removed the cloth, revealing a large group of chickens inside the cage. His solution was to raise chickens to solve the famine. Yu's eyes lit up. It was so simple to solve the disaster, but Zhuan Qizhi looked grave. He had raised many chickens before, but every time he told Taishou, the chickens would mysteriously die overnight. Yu immediately suspected Taishou was behind it, but it was also possible that Teng Daiyang was involved. Who was it? It was time for Ben Yu to take matters into her own hands. Bianjiu, come on, I'll take you to watch a show. Bianjiu quickly led Yu to Taishou's residence. Everything was going according to Yu's plan. Taishou would definitely make a move soon. As expected, the door of Taishou Fu was suddenly pushed open from the inside. Taishou Fu's servants ran out in terror, screaming, "Murder! Run!" Zheng Ming praised Xiao Jiang, "You're so wise and prescient." Yu smirked. She had long known that Shi harbored resentment towards young Jiao Han, who had parachuted into the position of Taishou 2 years ago. So last night, she paid Shi a special visit, and gave him a piece of Dao Huasu. Shi was puzzled. Why would this little girl give him such a small piece of Dao Huasu? Was she sick? But Yu smiled innocently. This is Dao Huasu from the capital. You must have never tasted it before, but Taishou Fu eats it every day. Even a maid eats better than you. You have been the Shi of Yangzhou for over years. The position of Taishou should have been yours. It's all because of young Jiao Han's sudden appearance. Yu turned and left after finishing her words. Shi, fueled by jealousy and anger, looked truly enraged. Yu couldn't help but chuckle. Now there's a good show to watch. Although she heard that Taishou wasn't dead yet, Yu wasn't worried. Just send someone to finish him off. Zheng Ling admired Xiao Jiang's decisiveness, and immediately took the order. Now that both Taishou and Shi were dead, all that was left was to wait for the chaos to subside and then open the city gates. Yu patted Bien Gus's head. Bianjiu, let's go open the city gates. Bianjiu excitedly mimicked, open, open. They quickly climbed the city wall. It was just dawn. As soon as Yu reached the top, a hand reached up from outside the wall. Then a head slowly emerged, cautiously looking around. Seeing a little girl standing in front of him, the man almost fell off the wall. Yu glared at him. Who are you calling a little girl? I'm going to be a general in the future. Actually, Yu was even more surprised. The wall was hundreds of meters high, and there was a moat dozens of meters wide outside. How did this guy climb up? The man easily flipped onto the wall, and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Don't worry, little Yu. I'm Song Fei Guang, a member of Nbu. Of course, I know the famous Xiao Jiang, and it's not just me. Everyone else is climbing the wall behind me. Song Fei Guang quickly turned around and lowered a rope. 11 human bodies were hanging on the wall, climbing up like spiders. Nbu members' wall climbing skills were impressive. Yu's mouth twitched. What kind of people are these? Climbing the wall in the middle of the night. Song Fei Guang thought she was scared and patted his chest reassuringly. He promised to protect her. They had devised a comprehensive plan. First this, then that, then bam. Seize control of the city gates and let their brothers from all over enter. But Yinyou said that she had already taken control of the city. These big guys were all dumbfounded. They had worked in vain. A group of horses galloped from afar. The man on the horse shouted, "Yang Xinyuan, a student from Ningzhu, has come to assist Xiao Jiang-en." Yinyou was surprised. The students from Yongan Academy had also come. They are here. The mainland's Wang Yinyou has finally rebelled. Not only did the Anbu members show up, but the students from her hometown also came to support her. Yinyou took out Fushi's hand decree, and ordered the guards to open the city gates. Groups of horses rushed into the city, each rider wearing the uniform of Yongan Academy. They shouted as they ran, "Ningzhu students support Xiao Jiang-en in fighting the famine and disaster." The people of the city were moved. Everyone knew that Xiao Jiang-en had brought Ningzhu students thousands of miles to support them. Some people even knelt down and wept with gratitude. They saw hope in their despair. As expected, Ningzhu students are the best. Yinyou felt a sense of fulfillment as she won the hearts of the people. She was never fighting alone. She immediately started assigning tasks. Students followed Yang Xinyuan to visit households and assess the food and rat poison situation. Soon, Anbu members from various branches reported back. They had distributed rat poison along the way, and every household had received it. Song Feiguang was puzzled. Didn't their rat poison come from Ningzhu? What was there to compete about? And they were indeed the first to arrive. Yinyou also found it strange. How did they arrive so quickly? Jian Hongshuo rolled her eyes. They set off days ago. Of course, they are fast. Yinyou quickly calculated the time. The Anbu and students from Ningzhu set off days ago for Yangzhou, as if they knew what she was going to do. She had to admire Yi Ci's foresight. He had arranged everything in advance, but the most urgent matter was the current situation. The locust plague in Yangcheng had been largely alleviated, but there was a plague in the south. So she decided to let everyone stay and continue to deal with the locust problem. And Yinyou would personally go to the south of Yangzhou. Song Feiguang and Jian Hongshuo immediately volunteered to accompany Xiao Jiang-en. Whether it was killing Tai Shou or anything else, they would follow her orders without hesitation. Yinyou blushed embarrassedly. Actually, Tai Shou and Ci had already been killed by her. For a moment, the air fell silent. Everyone looked at her as if she were a monster, feeling that their arrival was somewhat superfluous. Yinyou immediately made a decision. Zheng Wen, Song Feiguang, and Jian Hongshuo would accompany her south, while the others continued to distribute rat poison and help with disaster relief. The Anbu members immediately obeyed. They admired Xiao Jiang-en immensely. Yinyou equipped herself and led her team out of the city, looking like a general going to war. Yang Xinyuan led the Ningzhu students in formation, marching forward to deliver a message to Xiao Jiang-en. The common people cheered and encouraged her from the roadside. "Little general, you must return in triumph." Under everyone's expectant gazes, Yinyou rode off again. At this moment, her small body had already become the sole and true ruler of this research city. FACAI is getting rich. Ben Yinyou's merit points are finally about to break through, again. It's too little despite the waves of merit points earned. However, Go Yici didn't pull out a single tick for him this time, so the merit points would be evenly distributed. She didn't know how Zhun Yun was doing now. Meanwhile, in the merchant guild at the border of Lingzhu, Hui Yang Feinyao and Dao Ren Juying, who had been locked up for half a year, finally saw the barrier imprisoning them open. The two giant birds excitedly spread their wings, charging like lightning toward the opening. They had been cooped up for so long, they were about to suffocate. As soon as they rushed out, a killing intent swept over them. They saw a person in white robes and that unique ugly mask. The two birds turned around and ran without a word. This was the terrifying master, who had locked them up for half a year. Who knew if she had come to eat bird meat this time? At this time, Yici said faintly, "I need one of you to go out and do something for me." The two birds immediately flew back, standing obediently in front of her, quietly waiting for their boss instructions. Dao Ren Jiying blinked his watery, innocent big eyes, trying to act cute to get the chance to go out. He was about to go moldy after being locked up for so long, but Yici slapped him away. "You're too ugly, you'll scare people. Xiao Hua looks more like a phoenix and can go out for a fly." Hui Yang Feinyao excitedly cried out, obviously pleased. He was still the most likable. Dao Ren Jiying looked at Yici resentfully, never expecting her to be a face judger. Yici didn't care about Dao Ren Jiying's complaints and directly opened the merchant guild's barrier. Hui Yang Feinyao rushed out impatiently and obediently followed Yici to do important things. Dao Ren Jiying, who was left alone, withered. He didn't expect that even being a bird would be judged by appearance these days. On the other side, ever since you arrived in the southern part of Yangzhou, she had ordered people to distribute sweet potatoes. There were corpses of those starved or sick from the plague everywhere. Zheng Neng took out a piece of cloth for Yu to cover her face to avoid being infected by the plague, but Yu refused. She wanted to save the cloth for those who needed it more. There was no need to waste resources. Zheng Neng then covered his own face with the cloth, muttering indignantly, "Shouldn't the cloth that the little lord doesn't want be given to me?" Yu rolled her eyes at him. "Your cultivation isn't going to get infected with the plague. Why do you want everything you see?" Bian Jiu Bian Chu's tears welled up, and Yu casually comforted him. At this time, a member of the Dark Department brought in a man, saying that he was a hen bandit, who had been robbing disaster victims along the way. Zheng Neng explained that there were many such people taking advantage of the chaos to kill and rob. Over time, they would gather together and form bandit gangs. Yu's face darkened, and she immediately ordered him to be killed. The man cried and begged for mercy, but Yu showed no mercy. How could she let him go, considering the tragic deaths of those victims? She ordered that from then on, any bandits encountered should be killed without hesitation. For the next 5 days, Yu continued to teach the victims how to plant sweet potatoes and spread knowledge about preventing the plague. And she ordered that all corpses must be burned to prevent the plague from spreading further. Fortunately, the recent work has been very effective, saving many victims who were grateful to her. Merit points increased wave after wave, and she was about to break through. Yu was very happy. Suddenly, a member of the Dark Department rushed in to report that Zisui had appeared. Yu's heart sank. How could Zisui be here? She had never encountered them before. It's over, it's over. Is Ben Yu going to die here today? What is all this? Oh heavens. I don't know anything about monsters. Just now, members of the Dark Department reported that a large number of Zisui had suddenly appeared in the village. The villagers were almost all eaten. Although Yu had never seen Zisui, she decisively ordered the immediate extermination of the Zisui. On the way, she took the lead, appearing calm on the surface, but panicking inside. This was her first time fighting Zisui, and she didn't know what she would face. Zheng Neng guessed that maybe it was because so many people had died here that the Zisui were attracted by the smell of blood, but Yu still felt something was wrong. Could the smell of blood really travel so far? Zheng Neng, although he also felt that something was amiss, thought that just a few low-level Gui Mai were not a problem, as long as it wasn't a Zisui frenzy. Yu was surprised that he even knew about Zisui frenzy. It turned out that 5 years ago, Zheng Neng had participated in the war to suppress the Zisui frenzy and killed many Zisui. He secretly told Yu that there were rumors that the Zisui frenzy was related to Beiyu's ascension to the throne. After all, this kind of thing had never happened before he became emperor. Yu had long suspected that there was a big problem with Beiyudi, but now was not the time to think about these things. She could only lead the troops to the village faster. But as soon as she entered the village, Yu swallowed hard. Her small hands tightly gripped the hilt of her sword, her face pale, as she looked at the scene before her. A four-limbed, green-skinned monster crawled on the ground like a spider, red flesh hanging from its sharp teeth. Yu had never seen such a terrifying thing before, and was so scared that she couldn't help but tremble. She didn't know whether she was trembling from fear or disgust. Suddenly, the Fushigui lunged at her, opening its bloody maw. Yu instinctively drew her dragon bone sword. With a swift motion, she sliced the Fushigui in two, but the next second, thousands of Fushigui charged towards them. These were the lowest level Gui Mai, feeding on human flesh. Because they had no minds, they didn't know fear even after seeing the death of their own kind. Zheng Neng immediately stepped forward to protect Yu, which slightly eased her fear. Song Feiguang also rushed forward with his sword, reminding everyone not to get scratched, or they would be infected. Immediately, the members of the Dark Department charged into the dense swarm of Fushigui. They were all seasoned veterans, killing a Zisui with each swing of their swords. But the Zisui kept coming relentlessly. At this moment, a huge Zisui suddenly jumped over the Dark Department members and lunged at Yu. This was a Li Shigui, a higher level Zisui than the previous Fushigui. The Li Shigui was too fast for Yu to react. At the critical moment, Bian Jiu Bian Chu headbutted the Li Shigui, sending it flying dozens of meters away. The Li Shigui fell to the ground, unable to get up, 2 large holes in its chest, black liquid oozing out. Zheng Neng immediately rushed over, and stabbed his sword into the Li Shigui's head. The Li Shigui instantly seemed to melt, leaving behind a puddle of black liquid. The Dark Department members immediately brought torches, and burned the Li Shigui's remains to prevent them from reviving and attacking again. It took a long time for them to completely clear out. The Zisui, Yinyou immediately ordered them to continue into the village to check on the villagers. Wang Yinyou is finally going to start her glorious career, but why do they have to report every trivial matter? Do they want to tire Yinyou to death? Yinyou has been killing Zisui for the past few days. She has been killing Zisui alone for 7 days, 7 whole days. Xiaoming almost ended up in the Zisui's mouth. Fortunately, Yang Xinyuan and the others will arrive today. She can leave Xiaoming to them. She has to go back and rest quickly. Her life is more important. Yinyou fell asleep as soon as she lay down, showing how exhausted she was. At this time, the students of Lingzhou Academy were arguing about how to provide disaster relief. Yang Jufu and Quan Qizhi were arguing fiercely with Yang Xinyuan. Quan Qizhi wanted to distribute the chickens and ducks to the disaster area immediately. Yang Xinyuan knew that the people were starving and would immediately eat the chickens and ducks as soon as they got them. He insisted on waiting a few days before distributing them. Quan Qizhi was confident that he could reason with the disaster victims, but first, they needed to appease them with sweet potatoes. After all, the disaster area couldn't wait a single day. Yang Xinyuan accused him of having no logic, and Quan Qizhi retorted that he was just a brat, who didn't understand anything. They argued noisily as they walked past. The guards at the camp entrance were dumbfounded, unsure whether they should intervene. At this time, a member of the dark department reported that Han bandits were robbing the disaster victims. There was no need for discussion, of course, they should be killed directly. Before he finished speaking, another person came to report that, having heard that officials from Yangzhou Juncheng had arrived, the disaster victims were gathering outside, making a commotion. They said that the sweet potatoes they distributed were too difficult to eat, and forced them to hand over their gold and grain. Yinyou was stunned. Without a word, she ordered all the troublemakers to be killed. Zheng Neng was stunned. How could she even kill disaster victims? But Yinyou understood very well. Normal disaster victims would eat even tree bark. How could they be picky about the taste of sweet potatoes? Zheng Neng suddenly understood. After resolving this matter, Yinyou couldn't help but yawn, exhausted, and went back to continue sleeping. Zheng Neng felt sorry for her. At such a young age, she had killed thousands of Zisui. Even an iron body couldn't endure it. The helpless thing was that although those low-level Fu Shigui were easy to kill, the higher-level Li Shigui needed Xiao Jiangjun and Bian Jiyu to deal with. Xiao Jiangjun was really working hard. He must guard the camp, and not allow anyone to disturb Xiao Jiangjun. At this time, someone came to report that they had discovered a stray Fu Shigui, but they had already killed it. They just came to tell her. Zheng Neng was speechless and quickly told them to get lost. They even had to report such trivial matters. A short while later, someone came to report again. Zheng Neng thought it was about Zisui again, and looked forward to telling him to just kill the Zisui without reporting. But the subordinate anxiously said, "It's not about Zisui. It's Jingjun who has arrived." Zheng Neng's heart skipped a beat. Why were they here? Were they here to arrest Xiao Jiangjun? It turned out that not long ago, the emperor wanted to summon Yinyou. But when Wang Laochu went to deliver the message, he discovered that all the maids and servants in the residence were dead. And Yinyou was missing. The emperor immediately suspected that Yong'an, who was rebelling, and ordered Chen Kai to lead an army to capture Yinyou. If he couldn't find her, he would have to bring back his head. Wang Laochu immediately accepted the order, secretly delighted. He finally had a chance to get rid of that damned brat. 4-year-old Yinyou only needed one sentence to make the Imperial guards, who only listened to the emperor, willingly work for him. Fujidaran, standing beside him, was completely dumbfounded. He felt that all his talking was less effective than a single sentence. Yinyou was about to go back to sleep, but was disturbed by the loud noises outside. He initially wanted to ignore it and continue sleeping, but the noise grew louder and more disruptive. Yinyou immediately realized that there was a group fight happening. He immediately jumped out of bed, stepped on Bian Jiyu, and ran outside, beckoning Bian Jiyu to come along. Bian Jiyu secretly followed his little master, still draped in the small blanket he used while sleeping. As soon as they lifted the curtain, the two children were stunned. Members of the Anbu were confronting a group of Imperial guards. Behind the Anbu was a mountain of refugees. They were scolding the royal family for bullying people, saying Xiao Jiangli did nothing wrong and shouldn't be arrested. Even 3-year-old children ran out with their parents to testify for Jiangli. The scene was very chaotic. Intimidated by their momentum, the Imperial guards dared not move forward. Chen Kai, their leader, was having a mental breakdown. He urged everyone to calm down. He took a step forward, wanting to explain the situation. But the Anbu members instantly drew their weapons, looking like they wanted to kill these Imperial officials. How can we calm down? A sudden shout rang out. Quan Shiji, hearing the news, rushed to the scene. The Anbu immediately made way for him, respectfully shouting for Fujidaran to come and judge. Quan Shiji was angry when he saw these people from the capital. They did nothing but eat and drink, and now they were here to cause trouble. He immediately felt a sense of foreboding. These people looked bad. Sure enough, Quan Shiji pointed at Chen Ke's nose and started scolding. What a great Imperial guard. You were nowhere to be seen during the famine and chaos. Now, when Xiao Jiangli comes to plead for the people, you have the audacity to arrest him. You incompetent officials only know how to cause trouble and don't care about the people at all. Quan Shiji took out his official appointment document and held it high. It was a symbol of his official status and an important evaluation that could influence his descendants. But Quan Shiji tore the document in half. He threw it in Chen Ke's face. If the Imperial court is full of such shameless villains, then I won't be an official anymore. Chen Ke was stunned and felt wronged. He didn't want to arrest Xiao Jiangli, but the emperor liked to give him these difficult tasks. Yu had been watching from the sidelines and realized this poor guy didn't actually want to arrest him. Otherwise, he would have already fought with the Anbu, instead of enduring such humiliation. But if he didn't bring him back, the emperor would definitely chop off his head. But if he forcibly took him away, even with his high cultivation, he might not be beaten to death by everyone, but he would definitely be drowned by the spittle of all the people. Yu was so worried that he scratched his head. Finally, he decided to help this guy. After all, he seemed to be in a difficult situation. So, Yu decided to give them both a way out. So, Yu pointed to the refugee area, and told Chen Ke that many tents had been washed away by the heavy rain and asked him to help repair them. Chen Ke didn't hesitate, and led the Imperial guards forward. As long as they could get away from this chaotic scene, they would do anything. Yu nodded triumphantly. It was settled. Quan Shiji was dumbfounded. If he had known it was so easy to solve, why would he sacrifice his official position? The great demon King Yu is here again. Yu shouted to the children. We Anbu are the sneaky ones. We must carry forward the spirit of sneakiness. The Anbu members were confused. What sneakiness? But it doesn't matter. Whatever Xiao Jiangli says is right. At this time, Quan Ke walked over, holding the imperial edict to take Yu back to the capital. But he felt very uncomfortable. He didn't want to do this, but he couldn't disobey the emperor's orders. Yu readily accepted the edict and put it in his storage ring. Since what must come will come, it's better to face it positively if it can't be avoided. Tomorrow, he'll go back to Yangzhou City to check the situation, then head north and then east, taking the Imperial guards with me to provide disaster relief. Chen Ke was dumbfounded. He knew it wouldn't be that simple. The Anbu members cheered excitedly. Xiao Jiangli is unparalleled. Xiao Jiangli is our idol. They had obviously become Yu's brainless fans. Yu pretended to cough and motioned for everyone to calm down. He put on a serious face and said, leave the matters of Yangzhou to the local officials. Song Feiguang and Jian Hong, lead the team and follow me. We must carry forward our sneaky spirit. The Anbu members looked at each other, none of them understanding. Yu then remembered that he hadn't informed everyone yet. Anbu is sneakiness. From now on, we are all sneaky. Go back to sleep early today. We'll set off north tomorrow for disaster relief. After saying that, he turned and left, leaving the confused Anbu members wondering, this sneakiness doesn't sound like a good thing. At the same time, Bayudi arrived at the Imperial Palace alone late at night. He couldn't wait to report to Guilian. In the darkness, Gillian's camera came to life. The ghostly face formed by the black mist was full of resentment. The famine has just begun, and Yu has already saved most of the disaster victims, and even burned the corpses. Without blood to break the ghost domain's barrier, how can we create chaos? Bayudi didn't believe his nonsense. How could a 4.5-year-old child resist the entire ghost domain's attack? Guilian was almost angered to death by this idiot. Yu had a natural resistance to ghosts. So many powerful ghosts couldn't get close to him. This idiot didn't understand anything and just knew how to send useless things. Bayudi gritted his teeth in anger. Are these idiots' brains filled with water? If the powerful ghosts don't work, why not send the 5th grade cultivators? Why haven't they killed that little brat yet? Gillian's face was distorted with anger. As if it's not your family who died. A few months ago, Necromancer specifically went to the outer area of the ghost domain and killed several elder ghosts. The ghost domain suffered heavy losses. Now Yinyou has burned the corpses and scattered the blood energy. How can we create chaos? But Bayudi was still unwilling to give up. A sinister look flashed in his eyes. Since ordinary people and powerful ghosts are useless, the 5th grade cultivators should work. The blood energy of cultivators is rich and abundant. I previously sent a group of Imperial guards to the ghost domain. As long as we can turn them into powerful ghosts, no one can stop them. Then, when we attack Yangju, the blood energy will definitely break the barrier. Guolian laughed heartily. I didn't expect such a big surprise. Who would have thought that Bayudi could be even more sinister? The war between the two countries, Bei and Dong, had already begun. But he allowed Dongguo to buy up all the national reserves and then sell them to Hanguo's army. In this battle, Dongguo's army would definitely be annihilated. Guolian was shocked by the sinister nature of humans. Humans are indeed the most sinister. Oh no, the great demon King Yiyou's life is in danger now. Why are so many goblins targeting her? Yinyou finally managed to fall asleep, but loud banging noises from outside woke him up. Just as he was about to get angry, Yinyou rushed in, sweating profusely, shouting, "Fire! Fire!" Without another word, he scooped up Yinyou. Yinyou was completely stunned by this action. What's wrong with this silly horse? Yinyou ignored him, and rushed out of the tent with Yinyou on his back. Yinyou was about to scold him, but the next second, he saw a terrifying scene. The ground in front of them was covered with goblins and numerous historic ghosts. These ghosts attacked anyone they saw. The Endo members were desperately fighting back, continuously setting fires to repel these monsters. Cheng Kei and the Imperial guards rushed to protect Yinyou as soon as they heard the news. Yuyu's eyes were red with anxiety. He told them to protect the people first. With so many ghosts, who knew how many people would suffer? Cheng Kei was stunned. He didn't expect such a small child to be so compassionate. He finally nodded, and led the Imperial guards to the refugee area. After all, the unarmed civilians were in greater danger. Yinyou and Bianjiu charged into the monsters. Yinyou was so angry that his whole body was crackling with electricity. He took out the dragon bone sword from his storage ring, and fought fiercely against the ghosts. But there were too many ghosts. They kept coming towards him. Yinyou clenched his teeth. Even these cultivators were struggling. How much worse must it be for ordinary people? Yinyou was so angry that he couldn't think straight. They had searched the entire southern part of Yangju and eliminated all the ghosts in the ghost domain. Why were there still so many? The Anbu sneaky ones were also fighting the monsters. Suddenly, a dark shadow appeared in the distance. The shadow swept across the chaotic battlefield, heading straight for the front. It was Yinyou, who was busy killing monsters. He hadn't noticed the danger approaching. The Anbu members noticed the dark shadow and tried to protect Yinyou, but they weren't strong enough to break through the surrounding monsters. Only Cheng Kei, with his profound cultivation, charged towards the shadow. This shadow is not simple. It's definitely not something Xiao Jiangli can handle. But the shadow suddenly sneered at him, as if a demon had succeeded. The next second, the shadow turned and slapped him. Cheng Kei instantly spat out blood. A deep gash appeared on his chest. The opponent was too powerful. He was no match for him. Yinyou was shocked and tried to rush over to help, but the shadow had already grabbed him. Yinyou gritted his teeth and struggled with all his might, but he couldn't resist the pull of the darkness. In the end, he was dragged into the sky by the shadow. Bianjiu was so anxious that he stomped his hooves. He wanted to rush up and protect his little master, but the shadow slapped him in the face. Bianjiu was stunned. Bianjiu swayed unsteadily, but he still roared at the shadow. The great demon King Yinyou finally reached points. Yinyou was unhappy, despite having the book, but still lacking something. Because it was a group of demons and monsters that were boosting her mood. A large number of dark shadows circled around Yinyou. Yinyou didn't resist at all, clenching her small fists and asking aloud, "Who are you? What are you grabbing me for?" Strange whispers immediately arose from the surroundings. The system panel prompted Gui Shen Momo to save trouble. Gui's mechanical sense was strong. Gui Yuan experienced killing new for righteousness. The extreme points were soaring. Yinyou then suddenly realized, Kuei Yuan Yang, that dead team leader, is also here. Then they are the Kuei clan of the ghostly outer 9 sects. Sure enough, the Tiger tribe's demons were shocked, capturing a wave of emotional points, directly pushing the score too. Yinyou's heart leaped with joy. She originally thought she would have to work hard, but unexpectedly, the enemy helped boost her points. However, the black shadow ghost that caught her was too strong. A casual attack could send Chen Kai flying. If she wanted to escape, she couldn't fight head-on. The only way was to unlock Feng Ying and then run at full speed. The most powerful black shadow ghost asked how he knew about the Kuei clan. Did Yi Ci tell him? What else did he know? Other members of the Kuei clan weren't so rational. They smelled a certain forbidden scent on the human child and immediately revealed a greedy look. They directly grabbed Yinyou, wanting to suck her essence and intelligence, but Yin Lao Gui immediately kicked them away. How could such a good thing be used by these small fry? Yinyou wanted to investigate the bottom of the cave, and was about to trigger her points listening ability. At this moment, the darkness beside them suddenly tore open, and a bright light shone in. The shadows quickly retreated. This feeling was all too familiar. Yi Ci, dressed in white, descended from the sky like a war god, his powerful aura instantly suppressing the evil spirits on the ground. Yinyou's eyes lit up with excitement. The current dog man wasn't just a god in her eyes, he was simply too cool. The fear that she had just suppressed surged up, and Yinyou burst into tears, crying loudly and rushing into Yi Ci's arms. Yi Ci rushed over from Beijing precisely to save the little one. They captured his person, so naturally, he had to come looking. Saying this, he reached out to Yinyou. Yinyou, feeling moved, immediately placed her small hand in his. At this moment, her sense of security exploded. Yi Ci was speechless. What was with the handshake? He swatted away Yinyou's small hand. Mai Haoqi curiously asked him for the dragon bone arrow. Yi Ci took the arrow and began an on-site lesson, and he only taught it once. The first time, he drew a Qing bow. Kei Wuchi came in like a god of death, releasing a dragon strike downwards. Yin could still hear the dragon's roar, as Kei Wuchi plunged into the crowd of monsters. Like a tornado, fierce and powerful, the dazzling white light illuminated the dark demonic realm, swiftly reaping a large number of demons. Yinyou watched with sparkling eyes, completely mesmerized, repeatedly muttering, "Dog Yi Ci is simply too handsome." A dragon's roar seemed to echo behind Yi Ci, as if striking at the heart of this demonic lair. The dragon bone sword in Yi Ci's hand flipped nimbly, carrying overwhelming power. It directly enveloped all the demons in the deep pool, instantly reducing them to ashes, leaving only charred remains. Yinyou's jaw almost dropped. That sword didn't even touch their bodies. How did he kill them? Yi Ci's voice rang out gently, as if enlightening him. See the great Tao, be desireless and without attachment. These words struck Yinyou's mind like a thunderbolt. She froze, her hair standing on end like a startled cat. Yi Ci was also surprised. It was that easy to mislead her. As expected, a bear child is not an ordinary person. At the same time, in the southern part of Yangzhou, and Bu Laoliu led the Yangzhou students and Jinjun men to fight against the Zisui together. A flaming bird descended from the sky, providing significant assistance. Its refined appearance was mistaken for a fire phoenix by the crowd. That was the legendary divine beast. Only Bianjiu recognized it as his nemesis, but he couldn't explain it. He fiercely spat a red lotus fire towards the flaming bird. With a boom, a large group of Zisui were reduced to ashes, greatly reducing their own casualties. Quan Shiji knelt down excitedly, shouting, "Long live the fire phoenix." The fire phoenix is an auspicious sign. Heaven hasn't abandoned Yangzhou. Yangzhou shouldn't perish. The flaming bird became even more motivated, burning away patches of Zisui remains. It circled above the crowd, showing off its prowess. Yang Xinyuan watched for a while, feeling something was wrong. Why did this phoenix look so strange? It seemed a bit ugly. The flaming bird puffed up with anger, wanting to fly down and peck him to death. Quan Shiji punched him on the head, warning him not to be disrespectful to the phoenix. The nearby Anbu members were furious. The young general had been captured by the Zisui, and they still had the mood to admire a bird. They had seen the black shadow ghost heading in that direction, and were anxious to rescue her. The young general was their leader. They couldn't let her die in the ghost realm. Quan Shiji urged everyone to calm down. Sending people from Huang Wujin and Di Wujin would be like sending them to their deaths. They would only hinder the young general. At this time, Cheng Kai weakly raised his hand, volunteering. He was from Zhuan Wujin, and could go to the ghost realm. Everyone was speechless. He was so injured, he couldn't even fight. Why bother? Then Bianjiu suddenly walked over, his large head peering at his wounds. Without a word, he grabbed his needles and stuck them into Cheng Kai. Everyone was instantly stunned, but the next second, they saw an even more shocking scene. Cheng Kai's wounds healed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, he sat up completely healed. Yinyou proudly puffed out his chest. This kind of problem is nothing. Dog Yi's secret was finally discovered by the great devil Yinyou. The year-old monster actually liked playing boo. Ah ha 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 ha. Just now, Yinyou was sleeping soundly, but she was awakened by the charred remains of the Z-Sway. She had no idea how she fell asleep. She only remembered seeing the monster and then nothing else. She squeezed her small hands and found her strength had increased, and one of the soul-fixing nails on her back was gone. Presumably, Yi had removed it while she was asleep. Yinyou saw Yi doing something up ahead. Worried, she patted the dust off herself and went to take a look. Yi had removed his mask. His youthful face held a hint of mischief. He had two Z-Sway under his feet. He was stabbing the Z-Sway with the dragon bone sword, like a bully, enjoying their pained cries. Yinyou watched from behind with a mischievous expression. Suddenly, she asked loudly, "What are you doing?" Yi was startled and accidentally stabbed the two Z-Sway with more force. Yi quickly put his mask back on and coughed twice. He swiftly returned to his usual cold and aloof state, as if he was still the detached expert. Yinyou had already seen through his act. He was just a little brat, who liked to wear a mask and pretend to be an adult. However, she still pretended to be innocent and cute, as if she knew nothing, cooperating with her wide-eyed look. Inwardly, she thought, I must expose him and let the whole world know that Yong'an, the Empire's greatest general, is actually a bear child who enjoys torturing Z-Sway. Meanwhile, when Yinyou applied his miraculous medicine to the seriously injured Cheng Ke, his deep wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the exhaustion in his body disappeared. Jian Zhuangyang Xinyuan immediately asked him to take Yinyou to the ghost realm to search for the young general. After all, only he was from Zhuan Wujin. Cheng Ke had already intended to do so and agreed without hesitation. Yang Xinyuan also wanted to save her, but the ghost realm was unpredictable, so he instructed Cheng Ke to prioritize his own safety in case of danger. He then arranged for Anbu to take the disaster victims back to Zhangcheng. They had been busy killing Z-Sway, and had no idea how many casualties there were among the common people. But Anbu Lao Liu Men was worried about Yinyou's safety and refused to leave. Yang Xinyuan became furious. These disaster victims were saved by the young general at the cost of her own life. If anything happened to them here, wouldn't it be a waste of her sacrifice? Anbu Lao Liu Men immediately came to his senses and quickly escorted the refugees. Finally, Yang Xinyuan led the Yangzhou students and Quan Shiji to other villages to deal with the aftermath. The flaming bird naturally followed them. Yang Xinyuan was overjoyed. With it around, the Z-Sway could be suppressed to some extent. Quan Shiji praised him. After a night of fighting and the young general's disappearance, he was the only one who could calmly make subsequent arrangements. It seemed the Yangzhou students did have some sense. Oh no, Yi's secret of liking to play boo was discovered by Yinyou. To divert the great devil Yinyou's attention, Yi threw the reforged dragon bone arrow to Yinyou. Yinyou immediately felt the difference. It was much more powerful than before, likely infused with the newly extracted soul-fixing nail. Yi pointed at the Z-Sway pinned under his feet, and asked Yinyou to test the feel of the dragon bone arrow. Yinyou didn't waste any words. She lifted the arrow, which was almost taller than her, and effortlessly stabbed it into the Z-Sway's body. The Z-Sway instantly exploded in the air, turning into black quicksand and dissipating. Yinyou angrily stabbed the dragon bone arrow into the ground. She frowned. Why couldn't she summon the little white dragon's special effects? She didn't even hear a dragon's roar. Yi said innocently that its appearance was inconspicuous. It could kill a Z-Sway with one move. The dragon bone arrow itself was awesome. He had originally prepared two Z-Sway for Yinyou to practice on. Yinyou was embarrassed to expose his playing with the Z-Sway. She just shyly asked him to catch another one for her. Yi felt like she was indirectly asking him to send her to her death. Yinyou puffed up her cheeks angrily. She thought he was invincible. Turns out, even at years old, he couldn't break into the ghost realm alone. Yi thought she was playing dumb. Soul entry into the ghost realm had limitations. Shouldn't she understand this the most? Speaking of this, Yinyou became furious. She had long suspected Yi was a transmigrator, but she had tried many times to prove he wasn't from her world. Yi didn't understand her rambling. Yinyou waved her small hand dismissively. None of that mattered. The point was, she had killed all the ghosts. Those guys always cause trouble, especially that Huakue Gui clan, always targeting her. Yi's words broke through Gan Xingwei's emotional barrier. The little guy even knows about guilty feet. Seems like he didn't waste the trip memorizing things, but the younger ones were all killed. A few older ones escaped to Lingju. Then he started to patiently explain, unable to hold back his excitement. The Ghost Wine sect is a branch of the Ghost Fish clan. The Ghost race is one of the 9 races born from the Ghost Mothers. The East, South, West, and North 4 cities and the Ghost Domain Street are all outer districts. The outer districts occupy a large area, shrouded in perpetual darkness by the Ghost Chi. Past the outer districts is the inner district. That's the true center of the Ghost Domain. Yu's eyes lit up with excitement. He's talking about it so enthusiastically, he must have been to the Ghost Fish clan's inner district, right? What's it like there? Is it also just black? Are there more ghosts? Yi chuckled at her childish wonder. He patiently explained. My body is actually 70 years old. My father left me in the inner district for a few years. The inner district isn't like the pitch-black outer district. It's colorful and beautiful, like a dream. The creatures in the inner district are actually energy beings. The ghost infants in the outer district are actually ancient beings abandoned by the inner district. They harbored resentment and became beings that devour souls. Yu listened, her scalp tingling. She couldn't understand such complex things. Fortunately, Yi didn't force her. He promised to give her another wind soul drop later, to refine a new brittle body, for her to consume. The expired one would be given to Bianjiu. Biengu's fur hadn't grown much in 6 months. Yu, his owner, clearly hadn't put much effort into raising him. Before Yi finished speaking, the clatter of hooves approached from the distance. Bianjiu charged over in a cloud of dust. Yu squatted down, petrified. Why is this silly donkey here? Don't tell me he's here to save me, a 4-year-old being so filial. Be careful, someone's going to suffer. Since Bianjiu, you've worked so hard to find me in the ghost domain. Then I, your master, must share the good things with you, right? This bottle of mouthwash is for you. Don't be polite, don't be polite. He. Bianjiu instantly regretted coming. Why did he have to seek out this little devil? Yu let out a devilish giggle. Misery loves company. After all, we're partners in life and death, aren't we? This trip has been quite profitable. Not only did I kill the ghost clan, but I also got a soul-stabilizing nail. My points have also increased too. Not bad, not bad. Just then, a figure, dirty, tattered, pale, and fragmented, limped towards them. Yu was puzzled. Why would there be a beggar in such a remote place? When he got closer, she realized it was Cheng Kei. How could he be in such a fragile state? Seeing the little girl alive, Cheng Kei breathed a sigh of relief. He just didn't expect General Yi to be here as well. Before he could think further, Cheng Kei collapsed from weakness. Startled, Yu quickly helped him up and gave him some water. This man was a good person. She hoped he wouldn't die. Cheng Kei soon coughed and woke up. Yu quickly asked him what had happened. Cheng Kei recounted his ordeal with a heavy heart. Yang Shenran asked Bianjiu to take him to find the little girl, but Bianjiu wouldn't let him get close, let alone carry him. He could only follow behind, running all the way. He almost died climbing the 3 mountains and crossing the moon ridge. He then saw Yi. He immediately saluted respectfully. But he found it strange. The Beijing battle had already begun. Why wasn't General Yi in Lingju commanding the troops? As he spoke, Yi stealthily pressed a finger against his back. The forceful spiritual energy made Cheng Kei wince. Yi's voice was heavy with threat. He ordered Cheng Kei not to tell anyone he had seen him. Cheng Kei's mind buzzed. This oppressive aura clearly belonged to a heavenly dance realm expert. He was only 16 and already so powerful, but he also realized something. The alliance had declared war between the 2 countries. Marquis Yongan, as the supreme commander, was naturally at the border directing the campaign. Yi looked at him with a fake smile. I heard you suffered a little grievance in Lingju. My deputy generals can be inconsiderate sometimes. Cheng Kei trembled with indignation. Why was he being threatened after admitting his mistake? Yu listened to their conversation, while staring at Bianjiu. Bianjiu was lying on the ground, sobbing pathetically. Yi patted Yu's head. My little master, you must take care of yourself. Then he vanished in an instant, leaving Chen Ke dumbfounded. What was going on? Yinyou was used to it. She kicked Bien Gus's head, telling him to get up. Seeing him still playing dead, she threatened to throw him into the ghost domain. Bien Yinyou jumped up in a flash. He knew the little devil meant what she said. Cold sweat dripped down his face. Yinyou patted his head. Bien Yinyou didn't dare move, his face full of fear. Then Yinyou mounted her horse and set off, beckoning Chen Ke to follow. Chen Ke was speechless. Was she going to make him run again? Like master, like donkey, the 4-year-old had won her first battle. Yinyou, the little devil, was immensely pleased, humming her beloved motorcycle song. Chen Ke and the others were confused, wondering what a motorcycle was. Yinyou wouldn't explain to these ancient people. They wouldn't understand. The harvest this time was also quite good. The Zisui were all beaten to death by Yi's dad. Though a few old ghosts escaped, it wasn't a big deal. They shouldn't be able to cause much trouble. Yinyou effortlessly retrieved a soul-stabilizing nail. She was on a lucky streak recently. Chen Ke was feeling complex. A group of grown men couldn't compare to a 4-year-old girl. If it weren't for Yinyou, the people of Yangzhou would likely have perished. Yinyou bragged about her accomplishments. Taisho and Shixi had killed each other. Ji Dushi was a witness. And Fu Shiquan, with her wise strategies, had made great contributions. She went on and on. Chen Ke felt like his head was going to explode. She had been chanting this all the way. Even Tang Sanzang wasn't as good at chanting. He thought he could finally take her back to Jixia. But Yinyou wanted to visit Taisho's family. After all, they had tried to kill her. Without waiting for Chen Ke's reaction, she kicked Bien Gus's belly. Bien Yinyou understood immediately and bolted, carrying Yinyou. Chen Ke's jaw dropped. Why did he always get stuck with such a crazy kid? He had no choice but to follow. Soon, they arrived at Taisho's mansion. Xiaoqie was sitting under a tree, her clothes disheveled and dirty, her eyes dull. She saw a crawling ant on the ground. Drooling, she grabbed the ant. She stuffed it into her mouth. This was a result of being possessed by a Zisui, and having her spiritual energy drained. Chen Ke's eyes widened in shock. As expected, the ghost infestation wasn't over. This had to be reported immediately. Yinyou thought he was naive. Did he really think reporting would solve the problem? It was more likely to solve the person who raised the problem. Chen Ke fell silent, struggling internally. Was loyalty more important, or his beliefs? Meanwhile, at the Hanliao Kingdom camp, a soldier rushed in to report. The granary is on fire. The commander slammed his fist on the table, cursing. Are the logistics troops all pigs? They can't even guard a granary. Put out the fire quickly. That grain was bought at a high price from the Beiyu Kingdom, but the soldiers had already tried. The fire was strange and wouldn't go out. It wasn't just the newly bought grain that was burning, but their own as well. The commander nearly jumped up. A bunch of useless fools. How could this happen? There must be spies. Find them. Little did he know, the granary had already been reduced to ashes. Luo Yinyou of the Shadow Department was running away with bags full of rings. All the grain in the granary was inside. The Dong family had bought the grain at a high price and sent it to the Hanliao Kingdom camp, essentially paying for their travel expenses. Things were getting crazier. The little devil Yinyou was starting her con again. Remember, his name is Luo Yinyou. Luo Yinyou is essentially a dog. Chen Ke finally managed to bring Yinyou to the exit of Yangzhou. This little ancestor was finally going back to Huangcheng with him. This journey had taken a toll on him. He had lost more than 10 pounds. He needed to recuperate when he got back. Then they noticed refugees lining up to register and receive sweet potatoes and sweet potato seedlings from a young man. The young man thoughtfully explained that the planting instructions were written on the side for the refugees to learn. Yinyou admired his intelligence and leadership, and a desire to recruit him arose. As she pondered how to recruit him, she led her horse over. The young man was still shouting, "No one who enters Yangzhou shall starve." He saw Yinyou and his eyes widened in surprise and delight. He rushed to Yinyou, knelt down, and kowtowed repeatedly. "This humble one thanks you for saving his life." Yinyou was stunned. She felt like she had seen him somewhere before. After a while, she remembered. About half a month ago, when she first arrived, she saw someone perched on a tree, gnawing on bark. He saw her and, thinking she was there to steal food, glared at her fiercely. Yinyou gave him a bag of sweet potatoes, telling him not to eat tree bark. That bag of sweet potatoes saved his life, and she also gave him sweet potato seedlings to plant at home. He could harvest them in half a month. Yinyou suddenly realized. He was the first person she helped after entering Yangzhou. Cheng Kei also looked at Yinyou with newfound respect. The little girl might be difficult, but she had genuinely done a lot for the people. People thanked her everywhere she went. He didn't expect there would still be people thanking her at the exit of Yangzhou. Jian Sengxiu suddenly knelt down and expressed his desire to follow the little general. Yinyou was taken aback. He was so direct. She hadn't even said anything yet. Jian Sengxiu eagerly recommended himself. He was alone in the world. He would do whatever the little general asked, kill whoever she wanted him to kill. Yinyou glanced at Jingwei Junyan. She was still being monitored. How could she take him with her? Jian Sengxiu suddenly became frantic. He could poison these people. Yinyou quickly stopped him. They were too strong. Poison wouldn't work. Was he serious about following her? Jian Sengxiu nodded firmly. He was willing to follow the little general forever. Yinyou beckoned him to squat down. He would break his neck talking with his head held so high. Jian Sengxiu obediently squatted down. He heard the little general whisper in his ear, giving him a code name and instructing him to find someone who would guide him. Yinyou reminded him to be discreet. Lao Liu of the Shadow Department was a secret organization. The first rule was to avoid attention. After giving the instructions, Yinyou continued back to Jixia with Jingwei Junyan. Cheng Kei was curious about what she had discussed with the young man. Yinyou shook her head mysteriously. You don't understand. This is my Lao Liu's red coat. We're rich. We're rich. Ben Yinyou was unexpectedly ranked second by Bei Yudis Junning. Earlier that day, during the morning court session, a victorious report arrived from Lingzhou. The Duyi army had defeated the Han Liao army, resolving the military supply issue. The Duyi army burned Han Liao's granaries, leading to a shortage that forced Han Liao to retreat. With this string of victories, all the officials were excitedly supporting General Yi, praising his great contributions, and requesting the emperor to reward Yongan heavily. Bei Yudi was not happy at all. The 6-month war wasn't over yet, and now they were talking about rewarding Yongan. He hadn't even received his gifts yet. Just then, another piece of news arrived from Yangzhou. Bei Yudi, waiting for this, excitedly ordered Wen Pingda to read it aloud. We, Pingda, are truly afraid of incurring His Majesty's wrath. This news is not the kind to please His Majesty. What if His Majesty, in his displeasure, decides to attack Yi as well? Bei Yudi was nearly bursting with impatience. The bigger the trouble over there, the better. Under his urging, Wen Pingda nervously read, Lady Luo Yinyou, in Yangzhou, has solved the locust plague, cured the epidemic, and eliminated many blood-sucking creatures. When she left, the people knelt to see her off. Her deeds have spread throughout the south. Wen Pingda grew increasingly terrified, cold sweat dripping down his face. This was going to be the death of him. He cautiously looked up at Bei Yudi, whose face instantly turned pale. Bei Yudi was so angry he nearly lost control. Every victory for the Duyi army and every death averted meant trouble for his plans. Those Kuei clan fools can't even handle a little brat. And a mere 3- or 4-year-old milk doll saving millions of lives is just too ridiculous. He was about to frame Yinyou with some false accusation. Chen Liangping, however, was one step ahead, kneeling before him. He exclaimed excitedly, Heaven has sent us a divine maiden. General Di fights on the front lines, and the young lady pacifies the internal strife. This is a goddess bestowed upon our Bei Yu by Heaven. The other officials excitedly echoed, Du Yi, the god of war. The goddess descends. Bei Yu will rise. Chen Liangping continued, unafraid, the lady of Yongan has saved millions of lives, a great merit. Why not bestow upon her a title to commend her? Bei Yuda crushed his teacup in anger. His face was twisted in fury. That damned woman is ruining my plans again. And all the officials are on Du Yi's side. But even though he was unwilling, he could only decree, bestow upon the daughter of the Marquis of Yongan the title of Yongyi Junzu, Princess of the 2nd rank. And establish the Junzu residence. Wen Pingda, outwardly calm while inwardly terrified, couldn't wait to escape. He had offended this terrifying child deeply. She had even killed someone at the age of 4. Let alone him, a mere ant in her eyes. Yinyou, looking at Wen Pingda's emotional fluctuations on the system screen, almost laughed out loud. This old fogey was actually so afraid of her now. After reading the Imperial decree, Wen Pingda said cautiously, Please, little Junzu, enter the Junzu residence. His Majesty has already arranged everything. Yuyu's expression darkened. Nice words, but it's clearly just sending people to monitor me. But there was a surprise waiting at the gate. Grandpa, Butler had managed to sneak into the Junzu residence under a false identity. Yuyu's little face lit up. This was the only person who truly doted on her. Zhong Qingshan lifted Yuyu high, his heart swelling with pride at seeing her happy. Yuyu was about to turn 5. Zhong Qingshan, stroking her little head, decided to stay in the capital for the new year, and give her a big red envelope. Yuyu and Biangu were both thrilled. Zhong Qingshan patted Biangu's head, promising to give him lucky money as well. Oh no, Biangu's newly grown fur has been electrocuted by the little devil Yuyu again. Yuyu insisted she didn't do it on purpose. She still couldn't control her energy perfectly. It had started snowing heavily that day. Yuyu, dressed in a fluffy coat, was about to build a snowman with Biangu when she saw a breathtaking sight upon leaving the room. Under the plum tree, amidst the winter snow, stood Yi without his mask, a scene as beautiful as a painting. But Yuyu was inwardly annoyed. This guy, always acting mysterious, never knew when to show up, and always tried to look cool when he did. Yi gently patted her head. I'm back to celebrate the new year with you, and to remove another soul-stabilizing nail. With a wave of his hand, a nail flew out from Yuyu's back and into his hand. Yuyu felt a tingling sensation where the nail had been. It was truly a comfortable feeling. Yi turned the nail into a wisp of black chi, and, with a gentle touch, merged it into the dragonbone arrow. Yuyu watched in amazement. She had always thought it required some grand ritual, and hoped to see Yi perform it. Yi was speechless. Dragon sandstone was no ordinary material. It wouldn't melt even in the hottest fire. Yuyu, not dwelling on it, picked up the dragonbone arrow and practiced her archery skills, aiming at the targets she had missed before. Yi smiled approvingly, pleased with the child's rapid progress. Entrusting the Bo Yi army to her seemed like the right decision. Just then, Zhong Qingshan arrived with a plate of pastries, praising the little Junju's talent. Yi, noticing his emphasis on Yuyu's Junzu title, prompted Zhong Qingshan to nod in agreement. Little Jianvi, or Little Honggenv, none of those titles are as prestigious as Little Junzu. Yi suddenly said, you might very well be a god. Even emperors must kneel before gods. What need would she have for a mere title? Zhong Qingshan was startled. Gods hadn't appeared for ages. How could a child be one? In truth, Yi wasn't certain whether Yuyu was a descendant of a god, or a reincarnation of a great deity. But she was indeed special, and Biangu liked playing with her. Biangu was picky about his companions, so Yuyu was very likely, but the next second proved him wrong. Yuyu farted right on Biangu's head. A crackling of electricity flashed, turning Biangu black. Biangu fell to the ground with a thud, his newly grown fur burnt again. When Biangu woke up, he started wailing. Yuyu could only try to comfort him, but nothing seemed to work. Helplessly, she took out a bottle of sleeping potion, and poured it down Biangu's throat. As long as he drank it, he would fall asleep. Sure enough, the potent potion knocked Biangu out. Yuyu, yawning, prepared to cultivate the dragonbone arrow. Suddenly, the system popped up a notification. Merit points deducted to activate the new dream control function. This can further enhance the host's soul strength, and help the host remove the remaining soul-stabilizing nails sooner. Yuyu almost screamed. Her hard-earned merit points. But the damn system was always like this. Since the points were already deducted, she could only crawl into bed and prepare for her spiritual journey. The system's voice suddenly sounded, Host, what are you doing? Yuyu replied innocently, waiting for a dream, of course. Don't you have to sleep first to dream? The system reminded her, Host must first select a dream target. Yuyu suddenly perked up. Oh, so it's about controlling other people's dreams. This is going to be fun. New Year's Day arrived, and the little devil Yuyu was a year older. Greedy Yuyu and Biangu, arms full of snacks they'd bought, ran to Yi to receive their New Year's gifts. Yi, lying on a couch, thoughtfully added some firewood to the brazier upon seeing them, reminding Yuyu not to burn the house down. Yuyu immediately cried out in protest, It wasn't my fault last time. It was Biangu who did it. Biangu felt wrongly accused. Soon, explosions echoed from outside. Fireworks lit up the sky. Yuyu jumped up and down excitedly. The fireworks were beautiful. Zhong Qingshan arrived at this moment to give Yuyu her lucky money. Even Biangu got some. Yuyu, clutching a large pouch of silver, jumped for joy. She finally got her lucky money. She then turned and pounced on Yi, demanding his New Year's gift. Yi looked away, feigning indifference. Why should I give you a gift? Why don't you give me one? Yinyou almost screamed. This damned Yinyou was breaking the rules again. Considering his pitiful state of being alone, Yinyou decided to let it go and even took out a small portion of her lucky money, giving it to Yinyou as his gift, sharing her wealth in the spirit of camaraderie. But Yinyou swallowed the silver whole. Yinyou was stunned. He couldn't eat that. Yinyou pretended to choke and couldn't cough it out. Yinyou was horrified. He might get heavy metal poisoning. As the fireworks continued to light up the sky, the two of them, one big and one small, stood side by side, watching. Where no one could see, Yinyou's lips curled into a playful smile. The entire Imperial city was filled with a festive atmosphere. Several hours later, Yinyou, satisfied, snuggled into bed, thinking of checking on Bayudi's dreams. Unfortunately, the system informed her that the distance was too far for the dream control function to work. Impatiently, Yinyou shifted her target to someone closer. The next second, the system prompted. Dream target locked. Entering dream. Instantly, Yinyou entered Bianga's dream in third-person view. It was a place of pure black earth and ghostly white trees. Yinyou was surprised. She had expected Bianga's dream to be filled with roast chicken and duck, but it was unexpectedly eerie. Just then, she heard Bianga's chirping and rushed to investigate. She found a silvery white forest with a river flowing through it, its waters sparkling like blue gems. The dream was incredibly beautiful, and in the forest, a majestic, silver-white deer was frolicking, making familiar chirping sounds. Yinyou was utterly shocked. This gluttonous, narcissistic Biangu actually imagined himself as a deer. Biangu approached a fruit tree and bit into a translucent fruit, but the next second, his neck turned into a glass bottle of sleeping potion. Bianga's face instantly paled. He dropped the bottle and ran, as if he had seen a monster. The next second, Yinyou's body began to dissipate. The system prompted that Meng Zhu was kicked out of Meng Jin by the scriptwriter. Yinyou woke up and saw Bian Jiu struggling and crying, as if she had a nightmare. Yinyou was speechless. This horse is really something. Even dreaming and eating grass can scare her to death. How impressive. The mischievous child Yinyou actually treated the great devil Yinyou as a mount. Looking at the person and horse beside her, she almost burst into flames. On the evening of the first day of the Lunar New Year, Yinyou climbed up a tree to watch the fireworks from the Imperial Palace. Wow, they went on for 2 hours. At this time, Steward Zhong stood beside Yizi and called him down to eat melon seeds. Yinyou's eyes lit up, drooling. Melon seeds were a rare treat in this era, not like in modern times. She jumped down, having already found the perfect angle to target the mount. Yinyou straddled Yizi's back and hugged his neck tightly. Zhong Qingshan and Bian Jiu were stunned. Yinyou patted Yizi's head and shouted, "Faster, faster, run." She was clearly treating him like a horse. Yizi gritted his teeth, his face turning green with anger. Just give her a little color, and she opens a dye shop, huh? This little kid doesn't know how heavy she is. She just casually said. Yinyou pouted and immediately started to fake cry. She had been abandoned by her parents since she was a child, and was always envious of other children being lifted high by their fathers. She just wanted to experience the feeling of being held high. It was heartbreaking to hear and tear-jerking to see. Zhong Qingshan distressfully consoled her, "Little princess, don't cry, don't cry. We'll lift you high, lift you high." Bian Jiu also nudged her face over, clearly wanting to be lifted high too. Yizi wanted to throw them both away. That day, Yinyou had a blast, playing lift high with the poor Yizi. She didn't even know when she fell asleep. It wasn't until firecrackers went off in the distance that Yinyou was startled awake, sitting up abruptly. Bian Jiu was already sleeping like a log beside her. Yinyou pushed open the window and looked around, making sure everyone was asleep before deciding to use her dream control ability again. Since it was New Year's Eve and a rare chance to cause some trouble, she naturally had to choose the biggest target. Yinyou immediately chose Yizi as her dream control target. She wanted to see what this seemingly proper guy would dream about. After the system prompted that she had entered the dream, Yinyou quickly appeared in Yizi's dream. Just one glance and she was stunned. The space before her was filled with gold, dazzling her dog eyes. Yinyou never thought that the outwardly cold and aloof Yizi was actually a miser at heart. The dream was filled with mountains of gold and countless red and green gems. This miser's wealth was truly immeasurable. At that moment, Yizi suddenly appeared in front of her, walking into the sea of gold. The clothes he was wearing were also glittering with gold, and in his hand he held the broken silver she had just eaten. Yinyou couldn't help but chuckle. This miser was even dreaming about his broken silver. How much did he love money? Yixiai took a box out of the mountain of gold. As if holding a precious treasure, he placed the broken silver into the box. Yinyou couldn't help but laugh. This stingy fellow, even his broken silver wasn't spared. How much did he love money? Just then, Yixiai suddenly turned his head, his gaze fixed directly on where Yinyou was standing. Yinyou's hair stood on end. Wasn't she supposed to be invisible in dreams? Why could this dog man see her? The mischievous child Yinyou's secret was discovered by the great devil Yixiai again. Her little but was going to be sore this time. Yinyou had used the dream control ability to enter Yixiai's dream. She discovered that the outwardly cold Yixiai was actually a money grubber, but she didn't expect that even in her invisible state, she would be discovered by Yixiai in the dream. Yinyou was immediately startled awake. She stepped on the sleeping Bianjiu and jumped off the bed. Quietly locking the door, she thought she could pretend to be completely unaware. When she returned to the bed, she stepped on Bianjiu again. Bianjiu was not happy. Not only was she awakened, but she was also stepped on twice. Bianjiu immediately started complaining. Yinyou's expression changed drastically. This was bad. She was just discovered, and now Biangu's outburst was clearly telling Yixiai that she was the one in his dream. She quickly told Bianjiu to shut up. Bianjiu didn't know what she was up to, but obediently closed her mouth. But it was too late. The door was kicked open. Yixiai rushed in angrily. Yinyou. Explain yourself. Yinyou was scared and hid under the covers, cursing the system. First, her soul return was discovered by Yixiai, and now her dream control was also discovered. Was this lousy system any good at all? Bianjiu trembled, looking at her old master helplessly. She felt that her little master was doomed this time. Sure enough, Yixiai pulled Yinyou out from under the covers. Yinyou cried out, "Steward Grandpa, help. Yixiai is going to beat me to death." Yixiai held her down and spanked her hard. This time, even if the King of Heaven came, it would be useless. Yinyou cried her heart out. Hearing the commotion, Zhong Qingshan rushed in barefoot to stop him. What's wrong? Don't hit the little princess. She's still young, what if she gets hurt? Let's talk things out. Yixiai pushed him aside. No one can intercede today. I must teach this mischievous child a lesson. Yixiai seemed relentless, his spanks getting harder and harder. Yinyou cried even louder. The series of wails echoed throughout Yi Manor. The servants in Junzu Manor heard it and trembled. They heard that Junzu had bathed the national treasury in blood. Now they didn't know which unfortunate soul was being beaten to death. The guilty servants packed their bags and fled in terror. What was the point of working if their lives were at risk? The hidden agents on the roof secretly praised the little princess. In such a short time, she had scared away more than half of the spies sent by the emperor, and even some from other countries. Meanwhile, Yinyou was lying on the bed in pain, cursing that damn Yixiai for hitting her so hard. Bianjiu stood by the bed, looking scared, but the little devil Yinyou wouldn't give up so easily. She didn't dare enter Yixiai's dreams again, and Biangu's dreams were either about eating or eating grass, which was boring. But since the lousy system had given her the dream control training, it must be useful. She had to master it. Yinyou opened the window and looked around. She spotted a kitten and remembered the soul return skill. Fortunately, the system said that the soul return skill could still be used on low intelligence creatures, but it would cost merit points each time. Yinyou didn't hesitate to use it. Her soul entered the kitten's body. After the soul return was successful, she used the cat's body to jump onto the roof and run away. She had suffered a lot of grievances today, and had to go to Bayuda's dreams to explore, and discover some things. After being beaten by Yixiai, the mischievous child Yinyou was running away from home. Seeing a kitten outside the window, she performed a soul return into the kitten. Jumping onto the roof, she ran away sadly. The upset Yinyou went straight to Bayudi. Having been there many times, she quickly arrived at Bayuda's room. The kitten sniffed, confirming she hadn't come to the wrong place. She then lay down on the windowsill, covering her eyes with her paws, and activated dream control. Setting Bayudi as the target, she entered his dream. Yinyou's vision blurred, and she appeared in Bayuda's dream. The scene was the familiar Imperial palace. Walking in front were several richly dressed young men. They were the 4 sons of the previous emperor. 3 of the princes were chatting and laughing, flattering the 4th prince. Only Yang Jinshua walked alone behind them, head lowered and shoulders slumped. A lonely expression on his intelligent face. Yinyou was a bit surprised. He didn't seem so bad in his youth. Then, the 4th prince suddenly turned around and waved to Yang Jinshua, asking him to walk with them. According to age, he should be standing third. Yang Jinshuo clearly looked happy at this suggestion, but then he saw the expressions of the other two princes, the looks of disdain and disgust in their eyes. It was like a sharp knife piercing his already inferior heart. Yang Jinshuo sadly lowered his head and pretended not to care, saying he would just follow behind them. But the fourth prince grabbed him without a word, and pushed him in front of him, his words seemingly kind, but the other princes naturally dared not object to his command, and could only obediently line up according to age, walking together towards the main hall to see the emperor. A smile finally appeared on Yang Jinshuo's face, along with a hint of gratitude and expectation. The fourth brother still cared about him, but Yinyou felt something was wrong. She ran after them with her short legs, curious about what would happen next. The princes entered the main hall and met with the emperor. The old emperor was delighted to see them getting along so well. He loved to see his sons in harmony. It was Yang Jinshuo's first time standing so close to the emperor. The emperor had just praised the four brothers, surely including him, but then the old emperor suddenly shifted his focus, and specifically praised the fourth prince. It was obvious who had orchestrated this. The fourth prince stepped forward and humbly said that he was just doing what he should. He knew what his father liked. As expected, the old emperor was pleased. The fourth prince was his favorite in terms of both talent and temperament. He was brave and resourceful, the perfect candidate for the throne. Coincidentally, the court was discussing the establishment of the crown prince. The old emperor announced on the spot that he was appointing the fourth prince as the crown prince. This time, the fourth prince didn't act humble, but accepted the congratulations readily. In his view, it was only right. Yang Jinshuo's expression instantly darkened. He clenched his fists, his entire body trembling. Fu Huang had never looked at him that way. Sidi's love and respect were just pretense, and he had become someone else's stepping stone to power. Yinyou, however, was completely confused. So the original crown prince wasn't from Bu at all. Then how did he become the emperor? The dog emperor's secret was finally discovered by the great demon Yinyou. It turned out that the dog emperor wasn't originally the emperor. It was his younger brother, Yang Zhengiao. The old emperor had appointed Yang Zhengiao as the crown prince, and he also gave him several imperial concubines. Hearing that Yang Jining was virtuous and beautiful, the old emperor bestowed her to Yang Jinshu as his wife. As for Dngu Ranning, the enemy of the entire Bu court, the old emperor betrothed her to the crown prince, Yang Zhengiao. Everyone complained, why does a lowly bastard get such good fortune? Yang Jinshu was somewhat overwhelmed. Yinyou understood at a glance. The Dngu clan and the Yang clan were of unequal status. The old emperor wanted to consolidate Bu's most powerful forces through marriage. He couldn't help but admire the old emperor's wisdom. As expected, Ginger is still hot in the old age. Although Yang Jinshu was worried about being used, this marriage was indeed beneficial to him. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed in gratitude. The old emperor was very pleased. His plan was going well. But when he asked the crown prince if he was satisfied with the marriage, the crown prince unhesitatingly refused, saying that he and Dngu Ranning had no interaction, and that feelings couldn't be forced. The old emperor was furious. Had this child become arrogant after being appointed crown prince? He was about to explode with anger, but before he could erupt, the crown prince stepped forward, and whispered to him, Ruomu is weak, the nation's fortune is blessed. Yinyou was surprised. Wasn't Ruomu the current empress name? Could Bu have chosen the empress for this reason? After leaving the main hall, Yang Jinshu curiously asked, what did Tai Z just say to Fu Huang that made him give up on the marriage with the Dngu family? The crown prince hesitated, unsure whether he should say it. Yang Jinshu immediately said understandingly, if it's difficult, Sidi needn't say it. I'm just worried that father is always stubborn. It's hard to change his mind once it's made up. The crown prince was embarrassed. There shouldn't be any secrets between them. It's just a legend passed down in the Bu royal family. The Ruomu clan has always been single heir, passing down only through daughters. Those who possess Ruomu possess eternal life and heaven's favor. Yang Jinshu widened his eyes in disbelief. Could such a miraculous thing exist in the world? Actually, I don't know if it's true, the crown prince admitted. Anyway, I don't like Dngu Ruomu at all. I'm just using this excuse to delay the marriage for 2 years. I must find the woman I truly love, and I will only dote on her. Yinyou secretly thought it was a pity. This crown prince was a good person. If he became the emperor, he would definitely be 10,000 times better than the tyrant. But Yang Zhengiao revealed his ambition. He wanted the world and the throne. Yo-Yo was only distracted for a moment and found that the tyrant had disappeared. After searching for a while, she found him sneaking into the main hall, trying to sit on the dragon throne while no one was around. Yo-Yo was furious. Even in his dreams, he wanted to be the emperor. She wouldn't let the tyrant have his way. Yo-Yo immediately pushed the throne. Yang Junshu fell on his butt, caught off guard, but he didn't give up and tried to sit on the throne again. Yo-Yo directly carried the throne and ran, making it look like the throne itself flew away. Yang Junshu was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He screamed and woke up. Yo-Yo had already returned to the cat's body and jumped onto the beam, escaping. This time, she gained points. Yo-Yo was ecstatic. Biyu's emotions were extremely unstable, like a weather vane, perfect for farming points. She would come back tomorrow. Oh no. Yu sneaking out to the Imperial Palace was discovered by Yi. Would he spank her again? Did he want her to lose face? Just now, Yo-Yo possessed Myomio, and went to the Imperial Palace for a stroll. As she was about to go home, a faint, strange energy fluctuation caught Yu's attention. She couldn't help but stop. She felt this place was particularly familiar. After thinking for a while, she remembered that Fu Han had brought the dog Emperor here when possessing her body. At the time, she thought she had discovered the tyrant's secret, and wanted to follow him to see, but she was blocked by an invisible barrier, as if there was some strange restriction ahead. Because it was so unusual, she remembered it vividly. Since she encountered it again, and the tyrant wasn't here to stop her, she naturally wanted to try again. Yo-Yo raised her paw and walked forward. To her surprise, she could actually enter. Yo-Yo was instantly delighted, but after entering, she found it was pitch black and she couldn't see anything. It felt like a ghostly labyrinth. Yo-Yo instantly became cautious. This place made her feel very uncomfortable. She didn't know if there was any danger, so it was better to be careful. She carefully took one step at a time. After only a few steps, she was blocked by a pile of skeletons. Yo-Yo almost jumped in fright. She quickly looked up and her eyes instantly widened. It was a skeleton throne piled up with white bones. The white skulls were densely packed, all facing in one direction, clearly having some special meaning. Under the skeleton throne was a huge formation, emitting a sinister aura. This seemed to be a summoning formation. Something summoned by such a sinister formation definitely wouldn't be anything good. Without a second thought, Yo-Yo peed on the formation. Although she didn't know what it was better to destroy it first. She immediately ran out, leaving behind a puddle of yellow liquid. Imagining the tyrant's expression when he saw the formation being defiled and the pungent smell, Yo-Yo laughed happily. Today had been too exciting. By the time she returned to the Junzu mansion, it was already dawn. Yo-Yo jumped in through the window. Yi had been waiting in her room for a long time. Yo-Yo bumped into him. She screamed in fright, her fur standing on end. How did this guy sneak into her room again? But to Yi, it was just a meow. He rubbed Myomio's head, telling her to return to her human form. He couldn't understand cat language. Soon, Yo-Yo returned to her human form. She opened her eyes and found herself lying in bed. She wasn't in bed before possessing Myomio. Could it be that Yi carried her to bed and even tucked her in? Yo-Yo was touched and looked at Yi with bright eyes. Yi didn't know what Yo-Yo was thinking and walked directly towards her. He grabbed her by the scruff of her neck and lifted her up, not giving her a chance to speak. He carried her outside and unceremoniously told her to enter his dream again. Yo-Yo was stunned. What was wrong with this guy? The man inserted a chain into the child's body. Even the great demon Yo-Yo was dumbfounded. Even if I'm not well behaved and obedient, you can't chain me up, right? Just now, Yi had brought Yu's spirit to his room, and asked her to enter his dream again. After saying that, he lay down on the bed and told Yo-Yo to enter his dream and bring something out for him. Before Yo-Yo could ask anything, Yi, this man of action, had already fallen asleep, not giving her any time to react. Yo-Yo was shocked. This guy could fall asleep instantly. Dog Yi is indeed Dog Yi, but could she enter his dream in broad daylight, especially after failing twice? However, since it was the Gold Master's request, it had to be done. Yo-Yo immediately called the system to start the process. The result? She entered the dream in less than a second. The lousy system was too partial to Yi. Whose system was this anyway? The dream was still that magnificent golden place. Although Yi couldn't see Yo-Yo, he could somehow sense her presence. He coughed in her direction and sat quietly in this place filled with gold. Yo-Yo was already drooling with envy for this extravagant place. In a blink of an eye, they arrived at a place filled with various ice creams. Yinyou suddenly reached out into the void, and a red ribbon appeared, floating in the air, held by Yinyou. With his other hand, he reached towards Yo-Yo. With a clattering sound, he pulled out a chain from Yu's body, crackling with powerful electricity. Yinyou, enduring the electric shock, tied the red ribbon onto the chain. Then he let go, and the electrified chain, along with the red ribbon, was pulled back into Yu's body. Yo-Yo was dumbfounded. When did she have a chain inside her body? She fearfully touched the place where the chain entered, but couldn't find any trace of it. At this time, Yinyou looked exhausted, with cold sweat dripping down his face. He told Yo-Yo to go back first. Then the dream suddenly ended. Yo-Yo was pulled out. She rubbed her head, feeling as if something was added to her body. Could it be that the ribbon was brought out with her? But she checked her whole body, and couldn't find the ribbon anywhere. And what was that chain? Yo-Yo was full of questions, but Yinyou waved his hand weakly, saying he needed to rest. Seeing this, Yo-Yo didn't want to ask further. Even if she did, this guy definitely wouldn't tell her. So he turned around and left, just in time to go back and teach step by step. Yinyou finally breathed a sigh of relief. The dragon sandstone wind was too powerful, and with his current abilities, he couldn't undo it. Moreover, he didn't have much time. He was also worried that if he wasn't there, something would happen to this little guy. After all, this kind of reincarnation wind was too overbearing. Once one died, their soul would be scattered. At this time, there were still invisible red threads around Yu's soul. Those were soul-nourishing threads, which could gather and nourish shattered souls. Thus, he hoped they could save the stinky little ghost at the critical moment. Just how terrible can a troublesome child be when they act up? He even dared to snatch the emperor's dragon throne. Bayudi always felt like he had encountered a ghost recently because every time he dreamt, the dragon throne in his dream seemed to have grown legs and ran around. Little did he know, Yu had possessed Xiaohei, the little black cat, and waited for him to fall asleep on top of his bedroom. Recently, Yu's life had been very regular. Eating, sleeping, and stealing the dragon throne. Bayudi, as if he had some serious illness, dreamt of the dragon throne every night. Every time, he had to sit on it, and he wouldn't let the dog emperor leave. After finishing the dream, Bayudi went to bed early. He hadn't rested well recently due to constant nightmares, and wanted to sleep more today. Yu immediately perked up. He, there's something fun to do. Ling Ming, enter Bayudi's dream stone. As soon as he entered the dream, he found that the dog emperor wasn't dreaming of the dragon throne today. Yu patted Xiaohei in frustration. Now there was no way to steal the dragon throne. His happiness was gone too. Just then, the palace gates opened. The old emperor, dragging his sick body, personally led people to greet someone at the gate. Behind him, a grand procession of princes and princesses followed. With Yang Jinshuo standing at the very back, looking unhappy, a luxurious carriage slowly approached. The crown prince personally drove the carriage, looking as sunny and refreshed as ever. Stopping the carriage in front of the jade steps, the crown prince jumped down to greet the old emperor, who was delighted by his son's return. Then, the crown prince opened the carriage curtain and personally helped the person inside get out. It was a woman with a veiled face, dressed in a pure white dress, with an elegant and otherworldly demeanor. This person was Ruo Mulan. It turned out that today was the day the crown prince brought Ruo Mulan to the palace. Watching them, Yu couldn't help but feel some pity. The two were clearly a perfect match. A gifted scholar and a beautiful lady. It was a pity that Yu had heard Yang Xinyuan mention before that Ruo Mulan was snatched away by the current dog emperor. At this moment, Yang Jinshuo was staring at them with a gloomy expression. His twisted face was filled with intense desire, all the beauty distorted by his greed for the throne. Not long after, Yu woke up from the dream and stretched in the cat's body. Li Qing, already immersed in her thoughts, sighed in relief. Finally, the information matched up. Afterward, Yang Jinshuo colluded with the Dongguo family to seize the throne, but there were still a few unclear points. First, besides the Dongguo family, Yang Jinshuo seemed to have other forces backing him. Unfortunately, Yu didn't see them in the dream. Second, Yang Jinshuo was originally of average cultivation, but after seizing the throne, his cultivation actually increased significantly. Third was Ruo Mulan, this legendary beauty. In the dream, she never revealed her true face. Even in his dreams, the dog emperor seemed to be hiding something. The more Yu thought about it, the more questions he had. He decided to go back and ask Yinyou. He must know many things that Yu didn't see. After he left, Bayudi, who should have been asleep, got up with a gloomy face and left the palace alone. He came once again to the well deep within the palace. Carrying a bucket, he walked familiarly into the depths of the well, continuing to call out to the ghostly figure. But tonight, after waiting for a long time, there was no response. Bayudi's heart sank. Alarmed, he stood up and looked around. Only then did he see a broken cat paw print on the formation, tearing a hole in it. Bayudi was furious. Damn it! Whose cat paw is this? Who would have thought that the great devil Yi would actually raise a cat? But why did you feel a pang of guilt? Just now, Yu had barged into Yi's room, rushing in and pouncing on him. Yi sat up with a resigned sigh. What did this stinky little ghost want now? Couldn't he let him sleep peacefully? At this time, the system suddenly prompted. Bayudi's rage increases by points. Why was Bayudi angry? Did he discover that the formation was destroyed? Yu suddenly sobered up. Luckily, he came back, otherwise, Xiaohe would probably be in trouble. Yi looked unhappy. The troublesome child woke him up, then just sat there spacing out. Yu finally came back to his senses and remembered his purpose. He quickly grabbed Yi, wanting to ask him clearly, but ended up tearing his clothes again, almost making him furious. Just talk, why tear my clothes? Yu laughed dryly. It's okay, you have plenty of clothes. The priority was Bayudi's secret. How did he ascend the throne? How could a talentless waste suddenly become so strong? Yi curiously pried his hands off. How would I know that? He probably used some secret method. Yu didn't believe his nonsense. How could he not investigate such an important matter? There was definitely something wrong with Bayudi. Yi felt baffled. Bayudi's ascension happened before he was even born. Wasn't it normal that he didn't know? Moreover, Bayudi had long killed everyone who knew the secret. Even if he wanted to investigate, there was no way. However, the empress might know. Yu excitedly patted his thighs, almost breaking Yi's legs with his strength. Yi forcefully pried his hands off. Yu continued chattering, completely unfazed. There are only 2 forbidden areas in the entire palace. One is the deep palace forbidden ground, where there is a cave with a throne. But the prohibition has been broken by him. The other is the Empress Palace. Unfortunately, I can't get in. Do you still want to see your first beauty? Yi Daddy, can you take me there? He looked at him with expectant eyes. Yi put on his mask without a word. He stood up and walked towards the door. Yu was stunned. A man of action, he really just left like that. Yi directly led Yu into a space-time teleportation formation. Yu looked around curiously. Is this the legendary teleportation formation? But the next moment, he felt dizzy and nauseous, realizing he had motion sickness. The Empress Palace, the teleportation formation appeared out of thin air. Yu and Yi jumped out of the teleportation channel. As soon as he came out, Yu immediately ran to a flower bed and vomited violently. After a while, he raised his head dizzily, feeling completely drained. But why is this place so desolate? Yi said that this was the Empress Palace. Yu's jaw dropped. The place where the mother of a nation lived was actually so desolate. Just then, he saw an old woman with white hair sitting on the ground ahead. He hurriedly ran over and asked, "Where is the Empress?" The old woman turned around. Her face was aged, as if she were hundreds of years old. Yi said that she was the Empress. Yu's eyes almost popped out. How was this possible? Yi's legendary beloved was this old granny. No way, no way. Yi Daddy's beloved is actually an old woman. That's too heavy a taste, right? Moreover, this Empress was rumored to be the most beautiful woman in the world, but she didn't look like it at all. The Empress stood up with difficulty and slowly walked towards them, her steps unsteady. Seeing this, Yu's heart trembled. He quickly tugged at Yi's sleeve. Take a few steps forward, what if the granny falls? But Yi just stood there, waiting for the Empress to approach. The Empress finally arrived in front of Yi, stretched out her trembling hand, and slightly pointed in front of him. Yi understood what she meant and silently took off his mask, revealing his stunningly beautiful face. The Empress' dim eyes widened abruptly, finally showing a spark of light. The two just looked at each other silently. Yu felt a little uncomfortable. It seemed like these two had a secret, but no one told him. The next second, the Empress knelt down to Yi with a thud. Yu's jaw dropped. What was going on? The Empress actually knelt to the dog Yi. Impossible. It must be because the Empress granny was tired and her legs were weak. Yi just calmly said, "Get up." Yu thought he must be crazy. She was the empress, why should she get up? After the empress got up, she turned to Yinyou. Yinyou was stared at, feeling confused. Then, he saw the empress walk over and kneel down to him as well. Yinyou was completely dumbfounded and looked at Yici for help. Yici told him to say get up, otherwise, the empress would keep kneeling. Yinyou was at a loss, so he could only repeat what he was told stammeringly. The empress raised her head, tears streaming down her face, but with a faint smile. Yici seemed to know what she was thinking and comforted her. Don't worry, even if I'm gone one day, she will be here. Luo Yinyou nodded reassuringly. In the next second, her white hair instantly turned back to its original black color. The wrinkles on her face also disappeared without a trace, and her skin became full and youthful. In an instant, she transformed into a breathtakingly beautiful woman, with an elegant and otherworldly aura. Even Yinyou couldn't help but stare in awe. This was Luo Yinyou, the legendary first beauty, the empress. She was truly beautiful, but just as Luo Yinyou reached the peak of her beauty, she suddenly floated into the air and dissipated into sparkling light. Yinyou instantly froze. Was the empress dead? Yinyou also told him the empress died from Han Shao's poison. After that, Yinyou picked up Yinyou and teleported. They appeared right in midair. We should go too. Heavy snow fell on Jixia. All the palace servants cried for the empress. Bandit, filled with rage, went to find Huang Hao. Feng Yi rushed into Lingong Palace like the wind, but he couldn't find the empress. He immediately knew she was dead. Shan Shibao was furious. Wasn't she immortal? Why would she die? What will happen to her soul now that she's dead? I've been planning for 20 years. Was it all for nothing? Bandit gnashed his teeth in hatred. He was unwilling to give up. No matter what, he had to restore contact with Huizu. He needed to restart the Jiaohan needle. After the immortal empress passed away, heavy snow suddenly fell upon Jixia. All the palace officials mourned her death. Yinyou was forced to stay indoors and felt like she was going moldy. She finally waited until the weather cleared up. Yinyou left the same day Yinyou visited the empress, saying he was going to the ghost realm to kill some old ghosts. Yinyou wondered when he would return. However, before Yinyou left this time, he entrusted the management of the Anbus Lao Liu to her. Yinyou read these Anbu secret reports every day, and was well informed about the situations all over the country. She instantly experienced the thrill of being an emperor. She was the legendary Bai Yuan. No wonder Yinyou never thought of rebelling. Living such a good life, there was completely no need. Today, Yinyou received a report from the Anbu. After the empress' death, Jixia seemed to be cursed. The number of beggars in the city suddenly increased. Heavy snow fell, covering the ground. People were panicking, and all sorts of rumors were circulating, saying that chaos was coming. Yinyou's expression darkened instantly. Even a great devil like her didn't want the world to descend into chaos. But the following news shocked her even more. 3 princes died on the same day. The royal family announced that they all died from serious illnesses, but Yinyou wasn't so gullible. What a coincidence. What kind of illness could kill 3 princes at once? Yinyou quickly opened the last letter. It said that Bandit had ordered the confinement to be lifted and declared Yanxilin as the Sheng princess. The 4th princess mansion had been prepared with servants, and they were to immediately bring her back to the emperor. Yinyou found it even stranger. No one cared about Yanxilin for 3 years in Lingzhou. Why did Bandit suddenly remember this daughter? Moreover, it was right after the empress' death and the emperor's strange passing. There must be some connection between these events. Yinyou couldn't figure it out and decided to go to the palace to investigate. At this moment, Xiaohei, the black cat, appeared. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Yinyou smiled darkly. Xiaohei, please suffer a little. Let's activate soul travel mode. Her soul instantly rushed into Xiaohei's body. Yinyou skillfully flew over the walls and landed on the ground. Today, she was the mini version of Yinyou. Soon, Yinyou arrived at Bandit's palace. As soon as she jumped down, she heard a commotion. Everyone was discussing the emperor's order to catch all the stray cats and dogs in the palace. Sure enough, Yinyou hadn't taken 2 steps when she saw the Imperial guards approaching with nets. They spotted the little black cat instantly. The next second, the entire palace guard was chasing her. Yinyou ran for her life. She didn't expect being a cat would be life-threatening these days. She finally managed to hide in the bushes and shake off the pursuing Imperial guards. Yinyou was so scared that she was drenched in cold sweat. However, this also proved from the side that those stray animals were quite important. She couldn't stay in the palace anymore. Yinyou decided to visit Yang Yuan's dreams. After all, Her mother was a noble consort. Perhaps she could find some useful information in her dreams. A daughter witnessed her father with another woman. The great devil Yu thought, this is so dramatic. That damned woman dares to covet my man. Originally, Yu possessed Xiao Hei's body, to get some information from Yang Yuren's dream, but she ran out irritably after a while. She hadn't expected that woman's dream to be full of Yinyou. There were scenes of the two holding hands and shopping, dressed in casual clothes. There was also Yinyou giving her flowers and confessing his love. There were even scenes of Yinyou touching her. Yu was speechless. She felt this woman was probably crazy. Yinyou obviously hated her so much. Yu silently returned. Fortunately, she had deducted experience points from Yang Yuran. Otherwise, 2 nights' trip would have been a waste of time. Yu was about to return to her mansion when she saw the Imperial guards preparing to depart, ordered to bring back the Sheng princess within 3 days. Yu was stunned. Bei Yudi had just declared Yanshilin the Sheng princess, and he immediately sent the Imperial guards to Yongan. Wasn't this too hasty? That dog emperor doesn't have paternal love. Yu uneasily followed them. She felt there was something fishy going on and planned to ask Lao Liu of the Anbu to investigate. Suddenly, a soldier galloped over on horseback. The boy army is at the city gates. 3 great generals are leading over 10,000 boy soldiers, surrounding the gates. Chen Qian's face changed drastically. What are they doing? The boy army shouldn't be so reckless. Yu's eyes lit up with excitement. Could it be that the boy army is rebelling? Has Yinyou finally decided to make his move after holding back for so long? The Imperial guards immediately rushed to the city gate. Yu also hurried to watch the excitement. She had been looking forward to this rebellion for a long time. As soon as she arrived at the city gate, she saw the majestic and imposing army standing in front, the boy army. At the forefront, holding their weapons and ready to strike, were the 3 great generals of the boy army. She recognized all of them. Chen Lu suddenly broke out in a cold sweat, a bad feeling rising in his heart. Yu wished she could jump down and join the rebellion. Yu Huzi and the others are finally here. Hurry up and fight. Chen Qian swallowed nervously, and took a brave step forward, wanting to understand the situation. However, Yu Fuzong slammed his spear into the ground, creating a deafening clang. He roared, his voice carrying a terrifying sonic wave that echoed through the night sky. Chen Kai jumped and quickly retreated. He couldn't defeat these fierce generals. Yu Huzi gripped his large shields and struck them together repeatedly, like a battle drum. The sound penetrated the city gates and reached the Imperial palace. He bellowed, "We have returned the Sheng princess." No need for the noble Imperial army to bother. Zhu Hongting's lips twitched beside him. This guy's really using the script. There's no noble in the original lines. Chen Qian clenched his fists and looked anxiously at the carriage in the middle of the army. As expected, the Sheng princess, Yanshilin, stepped out. She was dressed elegantly, her expression calm and composed. Compared to the rebellious girl 3 years ago, she even seemed to have the influence of her late mother, the empress. Yes's heartfelt voice came from the carriage, "Remember what I told you." Yanshilin nodded obediently, carrying his blessings, as she stepped down from the carriage. Seeing the princess, Chen Kai immediately opened his arms to welcome her. However, Yu Fuzong's broadsword flashed, blocking their path. He bluntly warned them, "If you want to take the Sheng princess back to the capital, you must exchange her for the Shao Junzu." Yu's heart soared with joy. So the boy army made such a big fuss to take her home. The great devil Yu was finally going home. The boy army's troops surrounded the city. The 3 great generals shouted, demanding the exchange of the Shao Junzu for the Sheng princess. Their voices resounded throughout the entire capital. Chen Kai was stunned. He couldn't stop these elite soldiers. Just then, a giant fiery bird soared across the sky, trailing a brilliant tail of flames. It flew over Jixia, circling the sky like a divine being. After attracting attention, it flew back to the boy army. Instantly, the entire city's populace was in an uproar, shouting, "The Guardian Phoenix has appeared." The boy army has the Guardian Phoenix. The Phoenix appeared when the previous boy princess was still alive. Yu was both surprised and delighted. "Isn't that Xiao Hua? He came to take me home too." Yu controlled Xiao Hei's body and swiftly ran back. She had to return to her own body as soon as possible. Her joy was evident even on the cat's face. With the Guardian Phoenix, this was a sure win. Yu hurried to inform Zhong Ye and Bian Jiyu to return home. The news quickly reached Bei Yudi. He gnashed his teeth in anger. Why does the boy army have the Guardian Phoenix? And why doesn't the Phoenix acknowledge him, the true son of heaven? The more Bai Yudi thought about it, the angrier he became. He almost crushed the teacup in his hand. Many officials came to plead with him, advising him to release the Shao Junzu. The boy army had returned the Sheng princess, and they also had the guardian phoenix. The stability of the people's hearts was the foundation of the country. Bai Yudi's fury intensified. These officials were nothing but dogs of the boy army, only good for adding to his frustration. After half an hour of struggle, he finally relented. If he didn't release her, a full-scale war would break out. Since Bai Jun wants the princess, give them the snake. As long as Sheng Gongzu comes back, it's fine. The top priority is to reconcile with Jingfa. Keeping that brat Zhong Haisi here will only cause trouble. Yinyou, quickly receiving the Imperial edict, rushed out of the street, followed by Zhong Qingshan and others. Yinyou couldn't wait to return to Lingzhou. She was the first to reach the city gate and ran into Yang Qiliang, who was about to enter the city. Yang Qiliang almost screamed. He looked as if he had seen something terrifying. Yinyou pointed at him, puzzled. What's wrong with him? Yang Qiliang was speechless. What else? He's afraid it'll hit him, of course. The psychological trauma from before is too deep. As they passed each other, Yinyou still couldn't help but remind him in a low voice, be careful of Huang. Yang Qiliang glanced at her and nodded imperceptibly. Yinyou calmly cupped her hands in farewell. He didn't have the ferocious look of someone who reported her for hitting the princess before. For some reason, Yang Qiliang suddenly felt a bit wistful, especially when he heard Zhong Qingshan's concern for Yinyou. He suddenly wanted to return to Lingzhou too. Yinyou returned to Bai Jun's camp. The three generals were overjoyed. With the little general back, they wouldn't kill themselves no matter what they were asked to do. Yang Futong excitedly waved his hand and ordered the army to return to Lingzhou. Yinyou rushed towards the carriage, ecstatic. Yechi, you finally came to pick me up. But when she opened the curtain, she found it wasn't Yechi, but Yang Xinyuan. The person in the carriage wasn't Yechi, but Yang Xinyuan. Yinyou felt a pang of disappointment. Yechi didn't come to pick her up after such a big event. The 4-year-old milk doll commanded the strongest army with a single sentence. But when Yinyou realized it wasn't her daddy Yechi who came to pick her up, she still felt disappointed. It was all for nothing. However, Yinyou was very prideful. She pretended to be indifferent and said, I knew that dog Yechi wouldn't come to see me. Speaking of which, Yang Xinyuan was a celebrity now. Yinyou often heard people in the capital talking about him, saying that the Lingzhou scholar, Xinyuan, had the air of a son of a high-ranking official. Yang Xinyuan blushed a little. Isn't that propaganda spread by the little general? Yinyou thought he was much better than many officials. He was among the scholars, and he was also among those who provided governance plans to Yangzhou. Even if he wasn't now, he would be a great scholar in the future. Yang Xinyuan blushed even more. Yinyou didn't tease him anymore, and jumped out of the carriage. She climbed onto Bian Gus's back, waved her hand confidently, and ordered to set off for home. Bai Jun happily started their journey. Yinyou's smile never faded, wishing they could fly back. After marching for 3 hours, Bai Jun finally left the Imperial capital area. The soldiers stopped for a rest, but Yinyou wasn't sleepy at all. She wandered around the camp. She saw Yu Huji sleeping soundly, with a foolish smile on his face. She became curious about what dream he was having. She immediately activated her dream entering mode and entered Yu Huji's dream. She saw miniature versions of herself and Ji in his dream, fluttering around. Yu Huji, dressed in beautiful clothes, was drinking wine. Yu immediately recognized this place as Wanghua Fang in Yongan City, Lingzhou, the place where Tai Dao Lei almost got beaten to death. Yu suddenly felt a chill. She suddenly remembered that the last time she went to Wanghua Fang was to investigate Kuei Yuanyang. Kuei Yuanyang fell into the lake during the Kuei Yuan banquet, and Yu Huji and the others went to Wanghua Fang, then made Han Leguo tell the truth. But now, thinking back, she found the details didn't quite add up. Kuei Yuanyang was a Han Leguo spy, which meant Zi Sui and Han Leguo were colluding. But the investigation's result pointed to Dong Guo. Yu became serious. It seemed there was more to this matter. She had to reinvestigate it after returning. Yu Huji saw her in the dream and shouted, "Little lady, one more song." Without a word, Yu stabbed his wallet, letting him experience the pain of having no money. Soon, Ji came over swaying, reminding him to pay. But when Yu Huji touched his wallet, he found it was gone. The thugs immediately chased after him. "No money and you still come to listen to music. I'll beat you to death." One of them threw a kitchen knife at him. Yu Huji nimbly dodged it and ran away, cursing, "I paid for the music. Just because I didn't give a tip doesn't mean you can chase and kill me. Yinyou laughed. Even when running for his life, Yuhuji still had the heart to enjoy the show. Suddenly, Yuhuji slammed on the brakes, squatting down and grabbing a table to shield himself, as if he had seen something terrifying. Yinyou was stunned. What was going on? Why was he hiding? The three silly generals dreamed of Wan Hualu, and were caught by the big devil Yinyou. Yuhuji quickly grabbed a table to shield himself, closing his eyes and muttering, can't see me, why aren't you leaving? Go, go. Yinyou curiously followed his gaze, and saw Wendong buying groceries at a stall across the street. It turned out he was afraid of being caught by his wife for listening to music. Yinyou chuckled. Since you're so scared, I'll help you. She kicked the table over. The table crashed to the ground. Yuhuji immediately turned around, covered his head, and curled into a ball, hoping to avoid the disaster. The sound of the falling table attracted everyone's attention. Wendong instantly flew into a rage. Yuhuji! You're at Wan Huafang again. Yuhuji screamed in terror, and woke up from his dream. With the dream ending abruptly, Yinyou was also pulled out. Li Xingyuan and Yang Futong next to him were also startled awake. Yuhuji thought his wife had found out about him listening to music. He turned around and cursed, are you crazy? Zhu Hong was speechless. These guys only knew how to eat, drink, and listen to music. They had no sense of urgency at all. Yinyou couldn't help but laugh. These three fools even dreamed the same dream. However, dream entering was tiring. Yinyou stretched and prepared to sleep, secretly praising Wendong. Thanks to him, she had reaped a great harvest of fear. The next day, before setting off, Yinyou approached Zhu Hong to discuss reinvestigating the Wang Huafang incident. Zhu Hong was surprised. Wasn't it already investigated? Does the little general want to gather evidence to overthrow the Dongguo family? Yinyou looked serious and asked him to recount the incident. Zhu Hong carefully recalled the events. The Dongguo family investigated a large amount of Dingzi in Jiafang Sai and sent Kuei Yuanyang to Lingju through the Wang Huafang owner, attracting the attention of Yuhuji and the others. Moreover, Dongguo's conspiracy didn't stop there. They also leaked Bai Jun's retreat route, leading to their ambush by Han Leguo. During the war between the two countries last year, Dongguo sold all their grain to Han Leguo. Yinyou then asked him about Hua Kuei, whether there were any sudden changes in him. Zhu Hong thought hard and suddenly remembered something. It was said that when Hua Kuei was bought, he only knew Yingle and couldn't dance. After arriving at Wang Huafang, his dancing skills became superb, making the owner a lot of money. Yu's heart skipped a beat. So, Kuei Yuanyang being sent to Lingju by Dongguo wasn't orchestrated by Zisui. The Dongguo family's betrayal seemed to have Zisui's involvement, but Kuei Yuanyang's possession didn't affect Dongguo's plan, meaning Zisui's target was also Bai Jun. Yu paced back and forth, racking her brains. Who in Dongguo hated Bai Jun and Yecha the most? Bai Yudi's figure appeared in her mind. Yu was shocked. Could it be him? The 4-year-old milk doll was the leader of the strongest army, but there were always those who wanted to bully him. Yu couldn't care about anything else now. She suspected the dog emperor was in cahoots with Zisui. But what good would that do him? The skeletal throne flashed through her mind. The throne felt exactly like the one in the ghost realm. Yu suddenly understood. Did Bai Yudi ascend the throne with Zisui's help? No wonder he became so powerful in such a short time. She couldn't help but sigh. As expected, there was no family affection in the royal family. Zhu Hong was stunned. What does this have to do with His Majesty? Yu didn't answer, but asked him about Bai Jun's ultimate goal. Zhu Hong looked troubled. The boss did say, but he asked me to keep it a secret. Yu immediately guessed it was to kill Zisui. Zhu Hong was shocked. Is this really a child? Too smart. How did he figure it out? Terrifying. He couldn't help but send out a wave of fear. This further confirmed Yu's suspicions about Bai Yudi. This person was too dangerous and had to be eliminated, but the top priority was to return to Lingju. Other matters could wait until they were back on their own territory. Yu also decided not to spend any more points. Dealing with Bai Yudi would definitely cost a lot of points. Points weren't enough at all. They were about to reach Dangju. Thinking of the local handmade noodles and braised pork noodles, everyone started drooling. Suddenly, a messenger rushed in to report that the Dangju garrison, Lan Lu, wouldn't let them pass. Yang Futong and Yu Huji were furious. Bai Jun is passing through. What stray cats and dogs dare to block our way? Are they looking to die? Li Xingyuan calmly checked the information. Dangju is Dongguo's territory. It seems our nemesis has come. The messenger added, they suspect Baizhun is holding the princess hostage, and want to inspect the carriage and question the princess. Yuyu poked her head out of the carriage again, and also heard them mention that Lan Lu was from the Dong country, but they didn't say his name, official position, or what happened. Zhu Hong said that the leader of the garrison stationed in Dangju was called Dongguo Cheng, the second son of the Dong family, and Dongguo Han's older brother. Yuyu snickered. Zhu Hong definitely couldn't show his face. He was a secret weapon cultivated by Yi Ci, capable of both literary and martial arts, and commanding troops. It was best he remained hidden. Yuyu ordered everyone to stay put, intending only to take Yang Xinyuan with her to investigate. So, Yang Xinyuan rode ahead to clear the way, while Yuyu and Zhong Qingshan followed slowly in the carriage. After arriving in the city, they strolled around the streets and bought some corn on the cob to eat. Their journey was incredibly slow. It took a full 2 hours to reach their destination. Dongguo Cheng had long since grown impatient, never expecting this Junzu to have such airs, making him and over 1,000 soldiers wait for so long. Yuyu was no less imposing. She opened with a pompous declaration, General Dongguo, Junzu of Yonyea is here for a visit. Explain what happened. I don't want by soldiers to misfire. Yuyu the great demon king's points finally broke through. Just look at your sorry state. Weren't you being all arrogant just now? Originally, Dongguo Cheng was planning to give Yuyu a hard time, and even question her arrival. Yuyu couldn't help but laugh. Are you so eager to invite by soldiers to dinner? Have you prepared gold tails and gold ingots yet? Dongguo Cheng's face darkened. He still resented Yuyu for offending his younger brother in the capital. Today, he would avenge his brother. He strode aggressively towards the carriage. Yang Xinyuan immediately spurred his horse forward, his spear blocking the way to the carriage. Dongguo Cheng sneered. Get rid of this yellow martial realm trash. If he wants to die, he can just say so. Yuyu didn't show any anger. Instead, she called out to Yang Xinyuan, stand aside. Dongguo Cheng swaggered to the carriage, noticing that Yuyu hadn't brought any experts with her. He thought this little girl was rather naive. Zhong Qingshan nervously wiped the cold sweat dripping from his forehead, worried about what Dongguo Cheng would do to Yuyu. As expected, Dongguo Han arrogantly declared that he would inspect the carriage according to Dangzhou's rules and would then search Yuyu. Yang Xinyuan was instantly furious. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. This was clearly humiliating the Junzu. Unexpectedly, Yuyu was particularly agreeable. She not only agreed to let him search the carriage, but also jumped out of it voluntarily. Dongguo Cheng rudely stormed onto the carriage and ripped the curtains down. He then rummaged through the carriage, tossing things about as if dismantling it. Zhong Qingshan and Yang Xinyuan watched with burning rage, but Yuyu remained calm and collected. The two were puzzled. Why was the Junzu acting so strangely today? It was very odd. After a while, having tossed Yuyu snacks and trinkets around, Dongguo Cheng jumped down from the carriage and demanded to search Yuyu. Yuyu obediently nodded and stood still, looking like a docile little girl allowing him to search her. Dongguo Cheng sneered inwardly. She was just a silly little girl. He had thought it would be more difficult. He reached for Yuyu's head. Just as he was about to touch her, Yuyu's entire body began to emit crackling energy. In the next second, a huge bolt of lightning struck down from the sky, hitting Dongguo Cheng. He collapsed to the ground, charred black and motionless. Yuyu innocently exclaimed, "Oh dear, how did he get so dark?" Zhong Qingshan and Yang Xinyuan, the only ones who knew the truth, exchanged complex glances. The soldiers present were terrified. Where did the lightning come from in broad daylight? Could it be divine punishment? The soldiers immediately fled. It was all Dongguo Cheng's fault. Why did he provoke the virtuous Junzu? Now even heaven couldn't stand it. The crowd was shocked and terrified, and a wave of points flooded the screen. Yuyu grinned from ear to ear. Soon her total points exceeded. Yuyu gloated. As expected, farming points still depended on her, the great demon king Yuyu. Born with lightning, whoever dares to mess with her, will be struck by lightning. With Dongguo Cheng's death, the remaining soldiers scattered in terror. The three fools guarding outside the city immediately panicked, thinking their Junzu was being bullied. Yang Futong grabbed his spear and gave the order. The whole army, advance. Rescue the Junzu. The entire Bai army rushed into the city, the three fools leading the charge. However, they were dumbfounded by the scene before them. Wasn't the Junzu perfectly fine? Why did those garrison soldiers run away, making them think something had happened to the Junzu? Yinyou smiled brightly and told everyone that not only was she fine, but she had also gained hundreds of thousands of points. She couldn't stop grinning. At this time, Zhu Hong asked if they should kill the remaining garrison soldiers to silence them. Yinyou shook her head and ordered the news to be spread that Dongguo Cheng had been struck dead by lightning. Zhu Hong looked at the charred corpse on the ground and nodded slowly. The roasting was just right. He wondered if it was edible. The three fools felt a sense of righteous indignation. Heaven had eyes and struck down the evildoer. He deserved it for bullying their Junzu. Looking at their clueless, foolishly grinning faces, Yang Xinyuan twitched his lips. They truly deserved to be called the three fools. Where in the world was there such a coincidence? The closer the Bai army got to Lingzhou, the colder the weather became. It started to snow heavily that evening as the army set up camp. Thinking that she was finally about to reach her destination, Yinyou was too excited to sleep. She tossed and turned in bed, her little hands and feet kicking the blankets. Just then, someone lifted the tent flap. Yi suddenly appeared in the tent. Yinyou nearly jumped out of her skin. They were almost home, so why was he here? Yi, without a word, picked Yinyou up, saying he was taking her to train. Yinyou hurriedly slapped his hand. She still had a few things to say before leaving. Yi paused, confused. Could it be she was reluctant to leave Yang Futong, the little guy in her dreams? Yinyou rolled her eyes. What nonsense. She needed to leave a few words for her good brother. Yang Xinyuan was sound asleep, when he suddenly felt the temperature in the room drop. He opened his eyes to see the cold and imposing Yi, and was instantly terrified. He stammered slightly, bewildered. General, could you please not appear so suddenly next time? It's quite frightening, especially with that mask. Yi placed Yinyou in front of Yang Xinyuan, explaining that Yinyou had wanted to see him. Then he left, giving them some privacy. By now, Yinyou was dizzy from being carried. Yi had tossed her down and dragged Bianjiu away. Yinyou quickly shook her head to clear her mind. Yang Xinyuan didn't rush her, just quietly watched her until she recovered. Yinyou spoke seriously, in going away for training. Before I leave, I have a few instructions for you. Daddy Yi was finally taking Yinyou out for training. A while ago, Yinyou had given Yang Xinyuan several instructions. First, when he went to the capital, he must be high-profile and flamboyant, fully displaying his governing abilities and charisma. Then, he should become a student of the Dean of the Imperial Academy. Second, he must pay attention to Yang Xiling's situation and supervise his studies and cultivation. If he used any underhanded tricks, he should be severely punished. Third, if he couldn't contact her or Zhu Hong, he should mobilize the hidden forces himself. After finishing, Yinyou turned to leave. Yang Xinyuan was stunned. Wasn't she supposed to be returning to Lingzhou? Why was she going to the capital? But before he could ask, Yinyou had already slipped away. Yinyou happily found Yi waiting outside. Finally, she could go and have fun. Yi habitually reached out to pick her up. Yinyou quickly dodged to the side, then she grabbed his hand. I've grown up. I can't be carried around anymore. I have my pride. Yi didn't say much, only don't regret it later. He pulled her up into the air and flew away at lightning speed. The two flew like lightning while Bianjiu galloped behind them, horse and rider a blur. Yu's face was green, her fingers clenched tight. If she didn't hold on, she would be thrown off. It was too dizzying. Unbeknownst to them, the Imperial city was buzzing with gossip. The wicked Dongguo Cheng offended Junzu Yinyou, and was struck dead by divine lightning. Junzu Yinyou truly was blessed by heaven. Emperor Baiyudi, upon hearing the rumors of divine retribution, angrily questioned the imperial teacher in court, is this divine punishment real? The imperial teacher naturally denied it. How could there be such a thing as divine punishment? My grandson must have been murdered. This is a homicide and must be investigated. The imperial teacher was Dongguo Cheng's grandfather. He had investigated the lightning incidents. The first time lightning struck was in Lingzhou, destroying a watchtower. The second time was in Dangzhou. Both times, Junzu Yinyou and the Lingzhou student, Yang Xinyuan, were present. However, Junzu Yinyou had been in the capital for so long without a single lightning incident. Therefore, Yang Xinyuan must be the true cause. The emperor was somewhat surprised. This Yang Xinyuan sounds interesting. The imperial teacher explained that Yang Xinyuan was the student who assisted the Junzu in Lingzhou, and helped the local magistrate reform the governance plan. Baiyudi's interest was piqued. If this person could truly summon lightning, he could be useful. The Imperial teacher, however, was indignant. Your Majesty, do you intend to let my grandson's death go unpunished? He openly expressed his opposition. A nobody with no family background and no examination qualifications. How could he be entrusted with important matters? Baiyudi naturally had to appease the old minister. He handed over the investigation of Dong Guocheng's death to the Ministry of Justice, promising to give the Imperial teacher an explanation. At the same time, he ordered Yang Xinyuan to enter the Imperial Academy. Upon graduation, he would be granted an official position. Having said this, he adjourned the court. Since Chen Liangping's departure, the Dong family had become dominant. He intended to support Yang Xinyuan to balance the power in the court. Although Yang Xinyuan has been affected by this, Beiyu wasn't worried at all. He didn't believe Yang Xinyuan would fail after witnessing Fu Gui's full power. As everyone knows, if the Zhong family stays together, they will become fathers. Yu commented that this type of battle was quite intense, perhaps because the teleportation took too long. Yu couldn't help but hug a pole and vomit as soon as he landed. After vomiting, he grabbed Yi's clothes to wipe his mouth. Yi irritably pushed him away. His clothes were almost ruined by this bare child. Yu weakly climbed onto Bien Gus's back. He couldn't vomit anymore, so he might as well let Bien Jiu carry him slowly. Otherwise, he would probably faint from the teleportation before reaching their destination. They were currently riding on Bien Jiu in the snowy plains of Shijiao. This was the road to Jibei. They were about to leave Beiyu Guo's territory, and were obviously heading to Han Guo. This was because there were Henshi there, perfect for extreme power training. Yu immediately understood. Wasn't that the place where Quang stimulated the life force? He suddenly thought of Xiaogo. He wondered how Yi found people. Now, Huiyang Feinyao was even more outgoing than him. Yi said he had confined Huiyang Feinyao and Zhu Yinquan in the valley where Yu fell. Since both birds had mates, they might as well stay in the valley and fight to the death, saving him the trouble of going out and harming the common people. Now Yi had brought them to the border of the two countries. Yu was speechless. After so many years, they were still fighting. As they spoke, they reached the border. Yu knew there was a barrier here, but Yi said that as long as he sat on Bien Gus's back, Bien Jiu could take him in. Sure enough, they easily passed through a barrier without any obstruction. The valley was eerily quiet. Yu couldn't help but wonder. Xiaohua and Xiao Dao had been fighting for so many years, and every time it was Xiaohua who emerged. Could it be that Xiao Dao was already dead? Yi also felt something was wrong. Every time they came, they fought fiercely. Yu thought, wait a minute, Xiao Dao couldn't really be dead, could he? Just then, a bird's cry came from not far away. Yi's eyes lit up. He pointed ahead and gestured for Yu to look. They are over there. Yu, small as he was, stood on Bien Gus's back, craning his neck to look forward. He saw Huiyang Feinyao and Dao Ren Juyin flying and rolling. But the two giant birds' postures were strange. One was above, the other below, their tails intertwined. Looking like they were mating. Yu's face instantly flushed. Is this what Yi calls fighting? That's pretty intense. Yi's voice deepened. Aren't they both male birds? Yu felt it was all Yi's fault, forcibly locking them up for 3 years. Even males had physiological needs. Yi coughed dryly and continued walking. He couldn't understand what kind of needs. Yu suddenly became curious. Why were Beiyu Guo and Han Guo at war? What was there to fight about? Yi said it was the two emperors who wanted to fight, but Yu knew Yi wouldn't listen to the emperor. In fact, Beiyu Jun could have already killed his way to Han Guo's capital. He sometimes obeyed and sometimes disobeyed Beiyu's orders, but he always obeyed the order to retreat. Yu suddenly had a bold guess. This guy was using the war to train his troops. Yi's secret was finally discovered by the little devil Yu. Are you actually using the war to train soldiers? You could clearly defeat the enemy every time, but the emperor tells you to retreat, and you retreat. I right. Yi stopped and flicked Yu's little head. He rarely praised him, smart. Yu immediately understood. Indeed, Beiyu Jun's enemy was never Han Guo, but Zisui. Although Han Guo was hostile towards Beiyu Guo, their people admired Beiyu Jun. Some even wanted to join Beiyu Jun. So, the final form of Beiyu Jun is actually a grand army of the entire Beiyu's human race. Yi nodded. He had guessed everything correctly. Having received confirmation, Yu was instantly excited. This meant his mission was to lead Beiyu Jun against Gui Mian. Yi had to admit that this bear child was quite clever, the only person in the entire Yu who could keep up with his thoughts. He was glad he had brought Yu back. Yu couldn't wait to destroy Yu and connect Yu with other continents. He had long discovered that the people of the two countries didn't even know there was a world outside Yu, thinking this continent was the whole world. Yi said he was only half right. Connecting with other continents wasn't about destroying Yu, but another method. Yu was stunned. Then what's the purpose of destroying Yu? Just for fun. Yi explained it was to protect Lingyun. Didn't you go through the dream of Di? What did you see? Yu recounted what he saw. Nan yu ruo mu, guo yan qian cheng. De ruo mu zhe de yong sheng. Yi said the Imperial tutor thought things too simply. The Ruo Mu clan wasn't to be used like that. Ruo Mu didn't bring national fortune, but the entire Baiyu's Qiyuan. Because of the barrier in Baiyu, cultivators here could only cultivate to the Qian Wujing Grand Realm. Only with Ruo Mu's growth and Qiyuan fully opened could they cultivate further. After listening, Yu was dumbfounded. He understood the words, but not the meaning. Originally, in ancient times, Guiyu was just a place where the world's energy converged. There was no inner or outer zone, nor those Zisui creatures. There were no restrictions between Baiyu and other continents, and a powerful organization once existed. 30,000 years ago, the God-Demon War broke out and lasted for hundreds of years. The battlefield was Baiyu. As a result, Baiyu's world tree died, and many civilizations were lost. Baiyu also became restricted from contacting the outside world. Yu's jaw dropped. There really are such things as gods and demons. So, who won? Yi simply replied, the winner is the god, the loser is the demon. Yu thought he meant the gods won and was about to nod. But suddenly he realized something and his eyes widened. You're saying that it was actually two forces fighting, and the winning side called themselves gods, and the losing side was called demons. That's ridiculous. Yu, the little devil, had discovered the truth about gods and demons. It was originally just two forces fighting. The winning side called themselves gods, the losing side was called demons. So, the ancient times weren't some great war, but just a battle for power within one side. Yi nodded. History is written by the victors. The winners can say whatever they want. The losing side fled to the center of Guiyu. Some were expelled by Guiyu because they killed too much, and could only wander in the outer zone. Yu immediately understood. So those were the earliest Zisui, and those who lost the nourishment of Lingyun, could only nourish themselves with human essence and blood, constantly killing, and becoming the Zisui of today. Yi then asked if Yu had any more questions. Yu's eyes instantly lit up. He wanted to know what the world tree was and what Lingyun was. Yi explained that there were 10 world trees in total. Dongyu had the world tree Fusang, Nanyu had Busai, Shiyu had Shatang, and Baiyu had Ruomu. If a region's world tree died, then that place would gradually decline until it became a barren wasteland without any living creatures. Yu's mind went blank. He knew Ruomu was important, but he didn't expect it to be this important. Moreover, with Baiyu's world tree withered, it couldn't connect with the outside world. Yu then asked about the role of the empress. Yi revealed that Empress Ruomu Lan was the guardian of the Ruomu world tree. Yu was stunned. Now that the empress is dead, can't the world tree come back? Yi asked in return, think about who else in the palace is related to the Ruomu clan. Yu blinked, going through everyone in the palace in his mind. Suddenly his eyes widened. Oh my god, isn't it that little princess? Shouldn't we hurry up and save her? What if something happens to her too? Yi calmly knocked him on the head. He had already given her a protective talisman, and arranged for secret guards to protect her. Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Although that arrogant little princess was a bit willful, she wasn't a bad person. He just hoped she wouldn't cause any more trouble. Yi stared at him meaningfully. So, you beat her half to death before, which almost ruined the future of the entire Baiyu. Yu pouted. I didn't even use any force, okay? You know I'm naturally strong. I was holding back my strength to be a human, got it? Yi was exasperated. It was you who caused all the trouble, wasn't it? So you had already placed a protective seal on Yang Kai Ling Shen. Yi nodded. And you undid 3 years' worth in one go. Yu couldn't help but pat himself on the back. He was indeed the most awesome. Yi was speechless. Good grief, you think you're amazing for doing bad things, don't you? Soon Yu was puzzled again. Since Baiyu uses Lingyun to gain immortality, shouldn't the biggest obstacle to restarting Ruomu be Baiyu? Why don't you deal with him, but only Zisui? Yinyou, the little devil, learned that he couldn't live forever, and Daddy Yi would also die. Yinyou had just realized his own significance. Since both Zisui and Baiyudi wanted Lingyun, why did Yi only deal with Zisui, and not Baiyudi? Yi explained that Zisui could occupy Lingyun, but humans couldn't. Yinyou took another 77 and 58 seconds. Suddenly, she clutched her stomach and laughed heartily. So Baiyudi is completely useless, what a joke. After laughing, Yinyou grabbed Yi's clothes. I suspect Baiyudi has a secret deal with Zisui. Just in case, let's change emperors. Yi, fearing Yinyou would tear his clothes again, quickly unfolded her scroll. It's not just Baiyudi who has deals with Zisui. There are more than 20 countries bordering the Ghost Realm. I can't manage them all. Yinyou slumped down in disappointment. Good heavens, none of them care about the people. Then she heard Yi explain, a country can't just change its ruler on a whim. The people will panic. At least before the restart of Ruo Mushu, Baiyudi still needs to be the emperor. Besides, Ruo Mulan chose Baiyudi herself. Yinyou was troubled. But she initially chose the former crown prince, not Baiyudi. But whoever it is, they're still of the Baiyu royal family, aren't they? Even a new emperor would still be half royal blood. The royal family thinks they've gained long-lasting fortune with Ruo Mulan, but actually, Ruo Mulan is controlling Baiyu's every move. The prosperity of Baiyu is tied to Ruo Mulan's destiny. That's why I chose to establish the Bai army in Baiyu. After listening, Yinyou finally understood and jumped down. She looked up with admiration. So all of this is within your plan. It's simply amazing. So if the royal family finds out what Ruo Mulan has done, everything will be wasted. Yinyou spread her hands. So what do we do? Is there any quick solution? Yi told her not to worry, he could help. But if there's not enough time, and my Fengyin isnt completely removed, I will die. Yinyou's hair stood on end. What? You don't want to die, do you? Yi looked at her steadily, saying he would come to her again, but he had to go through Ruo Mushu. Yinyou hadn't yet figured out what Yi meant by come to her again. When he asked if she knew where the remaining 2 world trees were, Yinyou shook her head, counting on her fingers the world trees Yi mentioned. He had mentioned 8, meaning there were 2 more he hadn't spoken of. Jianzhu has Di Xiao, and Wendao has Di Wei. But Yinyou felt uneasy. The Yi of the past was taciturn, yet today he had explained so much to her. It felt like he was giving his last words. Seeing her suddenly downcast, Yi reached out and held her hand. Yinyou obediently placed her small hand in his. Then she asked unwillingly, after we take Ruomu Zhongcheng, can we replace Baiyudi? Yi gave her an affirmative answer. My time is also running out. Once Ruo Mushu's power erupts, the pure energy will be fatal to the Ghost Realm. They will stop at nothing to prevent it, just like when Zisui went berserk. Back then, Zisui's rampage was because the Ruo Mu clan's descendants leaked spiritual energy at birth, triggering Zisui's frenzy. I cast a secret spell to conceal the aura, and that calmed Zisui down. Yinyou clenched her fists excitedly. Daddy Yi is so amazing. No wonder Ruo Mulan is worshipped, but Yinyou suddenly felt something was wrong. He also worshipped me. To have Yinyou smash a stone with a ruler. Are you out of your mind? I'm someone who was worshipped as a queen, you know. Why would a queen worship herself? Yinyou couldn't figure it out. Looking at the clueless Yinyou, Yi fell into deep thought. The Feng Hunyin suppressing Yinyou's back wasn't just for Zisui, it was for Qian Shenzhu Man. If she was a descendant of a god, she couldn't not have memories before the age of 3, especially a powerful bloodline that needed sealing, likely a core inheritor. Usually, such a child's soul would be sent to another dimension at birth. Yinyou's situation was clearly different. She was attacked during her training and was sealed with the strongest Feng Hunyin, Shikong Lai. Moreover, Yinyou had never mentioned her parents, nor had she any intention of finding them, possibly out of disappointment or hatred. Thinking of this possibility, Yi suddenly felt uneasy. Seeing him silent for a long time, Yinyou couldn't help but tug at Yi's sleeve. But Yi looked at her strangely. Yinyou, do you really not know why the queen worshipped you? Ruo Mushu is a divine tree worshipped by spirits. Only if you were the god of Ruo Mushu would they worship you. Yinyou suddenly asked curiously, is Ruo Mu queen as beautiful as a celestial being? Weren't you moved? Yi looked bewildered. What's so beautiful about a tree? Yinyou rolled her eyes. A straight man is a straight man. No sense of beauty. After traveling for some time, the two finally arrived at a vast expanse of irregularly shaped cold stones. Yixiai pointed at the stones and looked at Yinyou. From today onwards, your task is to smash all the cold stones in this area. Yinyou's eyes widened. Dog Yixiai, are you crazy? Before Yinyou could complain further, Yixiai handed her a thin, short metal rod. Use this to smash them. To master exquisite cutting skills, you don't necessarily need scissors. It's the same with a rod. Yinyou wanted to die. Are you serious? That's not tofu. That's high-density cold stone tempered by nature. But you're not an ordinary human, Yinyou. The back mountain is determined to make you indestructible. You should believe in yourself. Yinyou felt helpless. She could only start hitting the cold stones with the rod. To make it easier for Yinyou to practice, Yixiai considerately moved all the cold stones to her side. In a tedious and boring manner, Yinyou smashed stones for a whole day. But even with all her might, the cold stones didn't budge. Yinyou sat on the ground, exhausted. She broke down and cried. I just want to smash until the full moon. The unsympathetic daddy Yixiai coldly urged her on. Continue. No slacking. Then he left. Yinyou sobbed. Grandpa Butler isn't here, so you bully me. You're breaking our agreement. Yinyou, seeing the conflict, brightened up. This is going to be good. Yinyou continued to cry. Old thing, bullying a child. Yixiai rolled his eyes. Who wasn't a baby once? I was being chased in the abyss at your age. This is nothing. Yinyou stopped crying. She didn't expect Daddy Yixiai to have had it so rough. Suddenly, she felt a little ashamed. Yinyou was disappointed they didn't fight. It would be fun if they fought. Seeing Gus' thoughts prompted by the system, Yinyou's anger flared. She flung the metal rod at Gus' face. You stinky Yinyou. You're laughing at me. The little girl used only one finger to pierce the hard stone, splitting it in two. Even the usually taciturn Daddy Yixiai praised her. But you still have stones to smash. Keep working hard. Yinyou slumped in defeat. Yixiai, just you wait. When I master my ultimate skill, I'll smash you first. Half a year passed. Yinyou looked at the ground covered in smashed stones, finally relieved. But now I'm starving. Finally, I can have a good rest. After I finish this instant noodles, I'll sneak into Yixiai's dreams. Yinyou, smelling the aroma, immediately stretched its horse face over. Yinyou didn't mind and shared a few noodles. After finishing the noodles, Yinyou cautiously approached the sleeping Yixiai and activated dream mode. Soon, Yinyou appeared in Yixiai's dream and started rummaging through his belongings. Hearing the rustling, Yixiai's consciousness awoke. He reached out and gently pulled. A black chain wrapped around Yinyou's soul was pulled out, still carrying secret Mama's lightning. Yinyou felt a sharp pain as her soul was almost pulled out. Damn dog Yixiai. Are you trying to murder me? Yixiai flung Yinyou into the air, warning her not to disturb his dreams. But Yinyou was never obedient. She unleashed the lightning power within her. The lightning struck the chain and Yixiai. A strong jolt ran through his hand. Damn it! A golden light flashed towards Yinyou. Despite her struggles, Yinyou was thrown out of the dream. Rubbing the back of her head, the lingering pain remained. Ever since Dog Yixiai helped her refine her soul, the back of her head felt strange. Serves you right. Who told you to intrude my dreams? If you're so energetic, let's go kill Zisui now. Yinyou didn't hear him. She was lost in thought. The black chain resided within her body, yet it seemed useless, as if it was a part of her. Yinyou wondered if it was a life soul, just like Li Xingyuan's dual life souls. Could she also have one? Seeing Yinyou still in a daze, Yixiai picked her up. Let's go to the ghost realm and kill ghosts. The 4-year-old girl bounced around in the ghost-infested place. Not only was she not afraid, but she also treated the ghosts as sword practice. To see the results of Yinyou's half-year training, Yixiai brought her to the ghost realm, a desolate place devoid of life. The sinister aura lingering in the air made Yinyou feel uneasy. Yixiai said that there used to be a Shuegua here, once the birthplace of the Hanbing clan. But a long time ago, a demonic frenzy swept through, slaughtering the entire nation, leaving this place deserted. Yinyou thought, even the Hanbing clan was annihilated, so the evil spirits here shouldn't be too powerful. You'll know if you try. Yixiai pulled Yinyou's hand and walked forward. Yinyou immediately saw many floating evil spirits. This was only the periphery of the ghost domain. The evil spirits discovered someone intruding their territory. The human scent instantly attracted them. They all rushed towards Yinyou, eager to tear her apart. Yinyou sneered, drawing the dragonbone sword from her back, this princess hasn't been slacking off for the past 6 months. Do you really think I'm a vegetarian? Wielding the dragonbone sword, she slashed at the evil spirits, instantly scattering the first few. Yinyou's delicate voice resonated like a war god's. These low-level ghosts were no match for her. However, it didn't feel like cutting flesh. The evil spirits' bodies were intangible. They were pure energy. Yinyou felt like she was cutting air, but as the battle progressed, Yinyou gradually grasped the key. Strength wasn't the point. It was the explosive instant. The evil spirits seemed mindless. Even after Yinyou killed many of their companions, they still relentlessly attacked wave after wave. Yinyou darted through the horde, but there were simply too many. Her arms started to go numb, so Yinyou channeled lightning energy into the dragonbone sword, slashing fiercely at the evil spirits. The last batch was instantly annihilated. Yinyou still felt unsatisfied. Aggressively, she charged deeper. She wanted to kill enough today. Binji saw Yinyou's valiant figure and felt inspired. He also wanted to slay evil spirits. Yici saw Binji's intentions and grabbed his fur. Binji protested. He wanted to be cool too. His strength was immense, and Yici couldn't hold him back, almost being dragged in. A surge of blood rushed up Yici's throat, and he couldn't help but cough. A mouthful of blood splattered onto his hand. Binji saw his master coughing up blood, and immediately calmed down. No way, has master become so weak? Just then, Yinyou's scream came from the darkness ahead. Yinyou ran out with her legs spinning like windmills. Daddy, help. I accidentally provoked a big guy. Binji's eyes lit up. A big evil spirit. Leave it to me. The mischievous child had run into the legendary ghost domain, just to see what ghosts looked like, and she ended up provoking a large one. Binji had been itching for a chance to fight. Hearing Yinyou's plea, his eyes sparkled. He confidently ran towards Yinyou, looking dependable. Yinyou was touched. Binji was indeed extraordinary. He stared intently at Binji, planning to smell him later. Suddenly, Binji braked hard, nearly breaking the carriage. Binji stared at Yinyou's direction, sweat dripping down his furry face. A giant evil spirit, as big as a house, was chasing Yinyou. He had expected a large one, but not this large. He bit Yinyou's face, and turned tail without hesitation. No way, I wouldn't even have fur left. He could smell the scent of a powerful evil spirit. Yinyou didn't dare engage either. She was dragged along by Binji. Yici stood before the evil spirit with his sword, the sword light forming a solid barrier. The evil spirit sensed someone blocking its path and opened its massive maw, attempting to devour Yici. Yici channeled power into his dragonbone sword, and a mouthful of blood splattered onto the blade. The dragonbone sword absorbed the life force. A phantom image emerged from his body and pierced the evil spirit. Although Yici was already weak, the mountain-sized evil spirit was instantly annihilated. Yinyou was amazed by this power. When will I be this strong? Binji excitedly shouted, Daddy Yici is invincible. Yinyou was annoyed. Who's your daddy? How dare you call him daddy? After eliminating the threat, Yici started meditating to recover. He let Yinyou practice with the smaller evil spirits at the periphery. After Yinyou mastered her sword technique, they set off for Nangua. On the way to Nangua, Yici suddenly coughed up blood. Yinyou was worried. Why are you coughing up blood so often at such a young age? She wondered if he had some strange disease. Yici didn't know what she was talking about. It's better to practice than worry. Yinyou didn't know what to say. Rest well. You're my precious husband. Oh no, someone dared to try and take her daddy away. Yinyou had finally gotten him healthy in the ghost domain. But Yici's health seemed to be deteriorating. This environment isn't good for you. Let's go to Nangua. Seeing Yici's frail state, Yinyou decided against letting him walk. What if he died on the way? She hugged Yici's leg. I'll get you a carriage. You can ride in it. Yici was surprised by her consideration and agreed. After leaving the ghost domain, Yinyou let go of his leg. She told Binji to build a carriage and call her when it was ready. Yinyou spread out blueprints and asked Binji to fetch timber. The bigger and thicker, the better. Binji was excited. This is fun. I'll get you the best. Soon, Binji brought back a pile of timber. Yinyou selected suitable pieces and started hammering and assembling. Yici and Binji sat nearby, watching. 2 hours later, Yinyou excitedly showed Yici her creation. Binji bit the red cloth covering the carriage and tore it off, revealing a simple flat cart. This is the carriage I made for you. Isn't it grand? Yici felt warmth in his heart. It's very good. A month later, Yinyou, riding Binji and pulling Yi, arrived at Hanlinggu. But after a month's journey on the bumpy cart, Yi's health worsened, and he coughed up blood several times. Yinyou helped him off Binji. Wait here. I'll find a proper carriage for you. Whose carriage is this? A luxurious carriage appeared before Yinyou. Yi coughed up blood again. A woman looked out. It was Su Xingqing, the third princess of Hangua. Such a pretty boy. Take him back to the palace. Soldiers surrounded them. It was clear she had done this before. Yi's cold voice rang out. I have a family, so what if you have a family? Just kill them. I fancy you, consider it your blessing. Tie him up. Be gentle, don't hurt the pretty boy. Yinyou's face darkened. How dare she try to steal her daddy? Yinyou stood before Yi. Touch him and you'll regret it. I'm his family. Kill me if you dare. Su Xingqing was surprised by her defiance. Her expression darkened. This brat dared to steal her man in front of her. Yinyou blocked the carriage. He has a family. Have you no shame? Being scolded publicly, Su Xingqing's face turned livid. Besides, this brat didn't resemble the pretty boy at all. She didn't believe they were related. Even if you are, I can still take him. I'll just kill this brat. Looking at the holy sentiments emotional gauge on the system panel, Yinyou was utterly disgusted. They are all royalty. How could that old geezer from Bayou Place top the list with points? Hanlai's princess only got. She's not even comparable to Bianjiyu. Yinyou was still in a daze when Su Xingqing sneered and took out his soul weapon. It was a giant hammer, bigger than Yinyou's entire head. Yinyou was stunned. Hanlai women are indeed strange. Even their soul weapons are stupid. General Fu isn't even this absurd. Thinking that Yinyou was scared, Su Xingqing smugly taunted, want to compete with me for someone? Take a look at your small body, see if it's enough to withstand one hammer blow. Yinyou calmly adjusted the mask on her head. Dojiad kid is telling the truth. If only this were the gentle breeze's weapon. While thinking this, she still pulled a bamboo strip from her bosom. Seeing the harmless bamboo strip in Yinyou's hand, the scene fell silent for seconds. The next second, the Hanlai soldiers burst into laughter. Is this kid playing dumb? Does she want our princess to spank him with that bamboo strip? Ha ha ha, this is hilarious. Ignoring their mockery, Yinyou twirled the bamboo strip. To deal with you calamari, one bamboo strip is enough. Yinyou's performance deeply satisfied Yi. As long as the will is strong, the weapon held doesn't matter. He closed his eyes to rest, not even bothering to watch. He already knew who would win and who would lose. Yinyou actually took out a bamboo strip to fight him. This was an utter insult. Su Xingqing was furious. He swung his giant hammer fiercely at Yinyou's head, intending to smash her into a pulp. Yinyou just stood there, calmly watching the hammer approach. After half a year of training, she had already grasped the essence of time and space. In Yinyou's eyes, the giant hammer's speed was much slower. Yinyou found the right moment, dodged the hammer with a flash, and then swiftly backhanded Su Xingqing on his, but with the bamboo strip, making him yelp in pain. Not only that, because his attack missed and he lost his balance, Su Xingqing stumbled and fell forward. With a thud, the dignified princess fell flat on his face. Su Xingqing's body trembled. He never expected that his powerful blow would be dodged by a little brat. He had lost face big time. I can't believe it, whispers rippled through the soldiers. Many thought Yinyou should be the one who fell, but it was the princess. Su Xingqing finally snapped. He swung the hammer at Yinyou again. I'll kill you. Yinyou stood there, letting the hammer fall towards her, thinking that she had even shattered pure hand stone. She wondered if she could do the same to a soul weapon. Yinyou gathered her strength and swiftly struck. The bamboo strip in her hand straightened and hit Su Xingqing's weapon. With a crack, the bamboo strip pierced the incredibly hard giant hammer, which then shattered into pieces. Su Xingqing watched helplessly as his soul weapon broke apart. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The woman lifted her Jin hammer and smashed it down hard at the 4-year-old child, but the child, using only a thin bamboo strip, shattered the giant hammer into pieces. Su Xingqing spat out another mouthful of blood. He couldn't believe he had lost to a little brat, and even had his soul weapon destroyed. Yinyou stared at the harmless bamboo strip in her hand with sparkling eyes. Wow, this is amazing. That was a soul weapon. The soldiers finally reacted and rushed to help their princess. Someone injured our princess. Capture that brat. Yinyou was stunned. Wow, you want to gang up on me because you can't beat me. She pulled a small dagger from her pocket and tossed it to Bianjiyu. Yinyou caught the dagger Yinyou threw. Thinking Yinyou wanted him to cut something, his eyes lit up. Finally, it's time for Lord Yinyou to show his skills. While the soldiers were distracted by Yinyou, he cut the ropes binding him to the carriage. Meanwhile, Yinyou, with her agile movements, easily dodged the surrounding soldiers, and jumped onto the princess carriage. This is a nice, comfy carriage. The soldiers reacted and tried to stop her, but Yinyou wouldn't let them. She kicked the horse's flank, and the two horses pulling the carriage galloped away. As they passed Yinyou, Yinyou urged him to get on the carriage. Yinyou then jumped from where he wasn't supposed to be. Just as the soldiers chasing Yinyou's carriage caught up, he lightly stepped on a soldier's head, and jumped onto the carriage with a single bound. Seeing Yinyou aboard, Yinyou urged him to sit down. She wanted to go faster. Yinyou cut the other rope, and saw the two of them speeding away. What? Aren't we going to fight? Yinyou's voice came from ahead. Yinyou, what are you doing? Run. There are too many of them, we can't beat them. Yinyou finally reacted and started running. Humans, you're so treacherous. At least tell me before you run. Yinyou wasn't worried that Yinyou wouldn't catch up. Now she had a luxurious and comfortable carriage, had bullied the princess, and gained a lot of points. Perfect. Unexpectedly, the Hanlai soldiers were surprisingly persistent and continued to chase them. Yinyou asked Yinyou to lead the way, while she dealt with those annoying men. Yinyou climbed onto the carriage roof, and pulled out a pitch-black crossbow from her pocket. It was from Luo Yinyou, and she had never used it before. Since there were fools offering themselves as practice targets, she might as well try it out. Well-trained soldiers were chasing a 4-year-old child. Yinyou aimed the crossbow at them. Some of the pursuing soldiers immediately turned and fled. Those who didn't know what it was kept chasing and shouting, "Why are you running?" But the others were already terrified. That's not an ordinary crossbow. That's a military crossbow. She's from the Buyi army. Mommy, help. Yinyou smirked. Seems like the might of the Buyi army's crossbow is quite impressive. Watch me turn you into beehives. She quickly loaded a bolt and pulled the trigger. Swish, swish, swish. Bolts flew towards the Hanlai soldiers' butts. Yinyou didn't even need to aim carefully. Just one shot was enough to scare the pursuing soldiers into scattering, not even daring to look back. Seeing that no one was chasing them anymore, Yinyou climbed down from the carriage roof. To make the horses run faster, Yinyou even patted their butts a few times. Then she opened the curtain to check on Yinyou, worried that the bumpy ride might worsen his injuries. As soon as she entered, she saw Yinyou staring intently at her. Yinyou tilted her head. Was there something on her face? Yinyou looked away and sighed. You can even shatter soul weapons. It seems your training these past 6 months has been fruitful. Yinyou's eyes lit up with excitement. Right? Am I not amazing? Yinyou gave her an affirmative answer, indeed amazing. A high-level cultivator's soul weapon being damaged by an ordinary person wasn't just a simple case of overcoming a higher-level opponent. But who would attack the soul weapon instead of the person during a fight? This was equivalent to crippling someone, driving the person who lost their soul weapon insane. Yinyou paused in his thoughts. What did you feel when you hit his soul weapon? Yinyou recalled, I felt something in my back, below my neck. Yinyou closed his eyes in thought, saying nothing more. Yinyou didn't know what he was thinking, but after a day of excitement, she was tired. Seeing that the danger had passed, Yinyou found a comfortable spot in the carriage and fell asleep. The prince's carriage was indeed comfortable. Yinyou ran alongside the two round-hoofed creatures, constantly correcting their direction and speed, acting like a proper shepherd. Yinyou drifted off to sleep. Yinyou looked at the sleeping child in the carriage, reached out and patted her back. A surge of electricity burst from Yinyou's body, making Yinyou's hand tingle. He gently pulled at the area below Yinyou's neck. A thin black chain detached from her back and was pulled out, crackling with lightning, making Yinyou's fingers numb. The power of this lightning has increased significantly. Yinyou dreamt that Butler Grandpa was making her delicious food, and her mouth smacked involuntarily. Yinyou helplessly released the black chain, letting it retract back into Yinyou's body. Yinyou still couldn't figure out what Yinyou was, or what kind of being she was, to possess such a special ability, capable of shattering soul weapons and judging life and death. The great demon King Yinyou was betrothed by the Emperor to his most beloved princess. Yinyou was dumbfounded. Emperor, are you out of your mind? You want me to marry your daughter? I'm a girl. To escape the pursuit of Hanlai, Yinyou switched to another carriage, and had Yinyou drive. Speaking of Hanlai, Yinyou felt helpless. If it weren't for their princess provoking me, I wouldn't have attacked them. After Yu finished complaining, Yi told her, only some of the pursuers were sent by Lai. I suspect the rest are from Dong. Yu was surprised. How did they know we were in Xinglia Valley? But thinking about it, it made sense. Dong was selling military rations to Lai, so it was normal for them to have spies there. Yu then thought about their destination. She wondered what kind of place Lan was. Yi opened the curtain and looked out. This country is small, squeezed between two larger nations, so its development is limited. As a result, the people here live very difficult lives, often going hungry. But strangely, they were optimistic, always believing that the Lannan kingdom would one day escape poverty. Yu looked at the sparse wheat seedlings in the wheat field. With this, forget about eating our fill, even the capital city of Zhuzhou looks desolate. Thinking of this, Yu asked Yi and Bianjiu to wait here for a moment. She then jumped off the carriage, her small hands searching around. She took out a handful of sweet potato seedlings and showed them to the farmers. These are sweet potato seedlings. They can be harvested in just days. Not only are they delicious, but the yield is also high. You might as well try planting them. Hearing Yu, the people's eyes lit up instantly. They didn't doubt her words at all. They all kowtowed to Yu. Heaven has eyes. The Saintess has brought good fortune to save us. The Lannan kingdom is saved. Yu was taken aback by this situation. There's no need for this, it's just a few sweet potato seedlings. But what surprised Yu even more was, the Emperor, upon receiving the news, immediately invited her to the palace. The Emperor was overjoyed by Yu's arrival and drank a bit too much wine. In Yu's eyes, sweet potato seedlings may not be much, but for the impoverished Lannan kingdom, this is a precious thing that can feed the entire nation. I thank you on behalf of the people. Saintess, Yu could only chuckle in response to the Emperor's enthusiasm. If I had known I'd be invited to eat sweet potatoes by your majesty, I should have come sooner. The Emperor, at his most generous, stood up and bowed to Yu. I have a beloved daughter who is not yet married. Saintess, please take her hand in marriage. A delicate woman stepped forward from the banquet and gently bowed to Yu. Yu was dumbfounded. No way, is this for real? I implore your majesty to reconsider. I am a woman. How can a woman marry another woman? You see what I mean? The Emperor slammed the table. Who says women can't marry each other? I am too young, it's not appropriate. No worries, no worries. You can marry her when you grow up. Now Yu was truly speechless. I am already betrothed. My family won't allow it. Yi, standing below, was almost suffering internal injuries from suppressing his laughter. It was rare to see Yu so flustered. Just as the Emperor was about to say something else, Yu finally couldn't take it anymore, and ran down to grab Yi. Run! Run! This place is terrifying. They are trying to marry me off at a moment's notice. Who can stand this? Men like to take girls to dark and creepy places. That's Chi Yu. He's here to capture the shuigui. This thing that looks like a slime, it's commonly called shuigui. Compared to the Zisui before, this shuigui is more resistant. Yu understood. So, unlike the waste-like Zisui, this one has a solid form. Yi nodded. You'll find out later. The previous methods might not be very effective. He then pulled Yu inside. Yu, without hesitation, took out her dragon bone arrow and slashed at the shuigui. It felt like hitting a lump of dough. The shuigi's body quickly absorbed the impact. Then it flicked off the dragon bone arrow. There wasn't even a scratch on its body. Yu, not believing it, raised her Wengu sword and summoned lightning, wrapping it around the blade. She struck the shuigui again. This time, it exploded. Yu smugly wiped her nose. Here, I thought it was so great. It still died by my hand. Yu then continued to hack at the remaining shuigui with the dragon bone arrow. Those shuigui were no match for her. Yi, unable to watch any longer, lifted Yu into the air. You're here to train, not to fool around. Yu protested verbally, but the next second, she released electricity from her body, shocking Yi until he shuddered. Yu playfully stuck her tongue out at him. Yi really wanted to spank her, but considering he still had to entrust the Bai army to her, he ultimately held back. Inside the academy, while others were cultivating, Yang Xinyuan was reading a book. The 13th prince, Yang Wenfu, brought 2 people with him. Seeing Yang Xinyuan, he mocked, who raised this poor wretch? Hasn't he awakened yet? Yang Wenfu had provoked Yang Xinyuan more than once. These Huangjin Kingdom people can't even read. Their overall quality is worse than the younger students in the Mingshui Academy. All they think about all day is cultivation. What can such trash cultivate? Thinking about this, Yang Xinyuan couldn't help but shake her head. If it weren't for her grandfather, she wouldn't want to be here at all. It was a complete waste of her time. Seeing Yang Xinyuan's disdainful expression, Yang Wenfu became furious. You useless trash, what are you looking at? Nothing, nothing. I was just thinking that the 13th prince is truly the strongest person in the academy. Even someone useless like me can study with you. Then, ignoring their ugly expressions, she put away her book. You guys continue. I'll be leaving now. But how could Yang Wenfu let her go so easily? He ordered his 2 followers to seize Yang Xinyuan. Yang Xinyuan's face darkened. Did they really think she was easy to bully? With a single wave of her hand, both of them, along with Yang Wenfu, were sent flying. With that little strength, you want to capture me? You should all focus on cultivating. Yang Wenfu jumped up and down in anger. You just wait. As a prince, he didn't fight fairly. He had people cause trouble for Yang Xinyuan, but they couldn't beat her. The furious 13th prince went to the dean and exaggerated Yang Xinyuan's evil deeds, attempting to use his royal status to pressure the dean into punishing her. Chen Liangping had already heard of this person and became interested. Bring that Linju student, Yang Xinyuan, here for me to see. The 13th prince, thinking the dean was going to punish Yang Xinyuan, his eyes lit up. Yes? I'll go get him right now. He then quickly left. Chen Liangping continued to play with the chess pieces in his hand. He had been sent to this academy as dean because he had spoken up for Yinyou, offending the emperor of Beiyu. But unexpectedly, away from the court intrigues, he found his life quite peaceful and carefree. Yang Xinyuan arrived after receiving the summons. This was his first time meeting Chen Liangping. He stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Chen Liangping looked at Yang Xinyuan and casually pointed. Sit down. Have some tea. Yang Xinyuan didn't hesitate, and sat down facing Chen Liangping. Since parting ways with Xiao Jiangyu, he had investigated the Chao Tang forces. The Chen family's history wasn't long, but their hold on both civil and military power was rare in the entire Beiyu kingdom. Among the old established families in the imperial city of Jixia, it seemed that only the Chen family held the emperor's trust. That General Chen Keqing of the Jin army, Yang Xinyuan, had cooperated with him during the founding of Yangzhou. He was upright and just, but somewhat concerned with face. As for why Chen Liangping had left the court to become the dean of the Jixia Academy, he also knew it was because he had spoken up for Xiao Jiangyu, angering the emperor of Beiyu. At this moment, the chessboard in front of him caught Yang Xinyuan's attention. The chess game was too familiar. Yang Xinyuan couldn't help but feel a sense of understanding. He blurted out, Dean, this chess game. Chen Liangping chuckled. He had studied this chess game for over 20 years. Could this young man see through it at a glance? Before Chen Liangping could react, Yang Xinyuan made a move, pointing at a spot on the board. This move is wrong. It should be placed here to break the game. Chen Liangping looked at the chessboard again, his eyes widening. Indeed, that's it. Yang Xinyuan's expression was complex. Dean, where did you get this chess game? Chen Liangping looked at his reflection in his teacup with a melancholic expression. An old friend left it over 20 years ago. He only placed half the pieces. We agreed to continue the next day, but there was never a next day. Yang Xinyuan fell silent. He wanted to ask if that person was his father. Chen Liangping looked at him, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. You look a bit like my old friend. This chess game is truly marvelous. Yang Xinyuan took a deep breath and finally couldn't help but ask, Dean, was your old friend surnamed Yang? Chen Liangping's pupils constricted and he abruptly stood up, accidentally knocking over the entire chessboard. Who would have thought such an ugly Nanware's child could unleash such power? And not only had Yinyou become more powerful, but her swordsmanship had also become more refined. Over the years, Yinyou had stayed in the ghost domain with Yi, training with Zisui every day. She didn't even need to draw her sword against low-level Zisui. A light touch would make them disintegrate. Moreover, Yi had removed a few more nails for her over the years. Now, her dragon bone arrow had 6 Jingpa nails and 1 Fengwen nail. Even if she encountered mid-level Zisui, Yinyou was confident she could defeat them. Yi drove the carriage towards her. We've been here long enough.